This is What in the Podcast with me and your boy Jimmy and special guest Waydot. So,
let's go.
I'm gonna go ahead and snooze up so that way we don't have to worry about it. Because wait, you can only snooze once every hour? Oh no, I can snooze again. Yeah, that's so weird. I'm gonna snooze it twice. This is gonna mess up my ad revenue, but I don't
Just
actually
like me
care.
in the morning. W.
That gives us a solid. Yeah.
I got a question. On my stream, I tend to vape, not like crazy, but
oh, you're fine. Do your thing. Be comfortable. I want you to be your true form self, 100%. By the way, I just want to throw it out there. I like the deck that you got behind you in the background. I see that board back there, and I like that. Yeah.
Oh shit!
You see that board back there? Yeah. I come from
PBR. Caps, blue ribbon.
Yeah, I come from a history of skating, so I used to
skate
for a little while.
I think it's an 8, but it's more decoration than
Oh, okay. That's a wall piece.
Yeah, I used to skate too.
Oh shit, dude! Skating was a big part of my life growing up. So
nice.
I love skating.
Okay, we're snoozed up and out of snoozes for the entire hour. It gives us 25 solid minutes to jump into things. We can just get into it, guys. I want you guys to know, for those of you that don't know, if you've never heard of Waydot, this guy is a content creating legend. Experienced on YouTube, fellow Twitch partner, two-time Golden Gnome nominee, two-time Golden Gnome winner, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct, Waydot? Motherfucker took it from me, Chet. No, I'm kidding. I wasn't even nominated. I wasn't even cool enough to be nominated. Wait, what's going on, dude? How are you, bro?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be on this podcast. I've been watching every episode you guys have put out basically since episode 0. So I'm definitely a huge fan and excited to be here.
I'm flattered. Thank you, dude, for supporting me and Jimmy in our endeavor. Yeah, it's actually funny how things kind of came together because in the past I had worked on an entire branding around a podcast that I originally was going to name No Bullshit. And I had branding and I had a whole premise and everything. And I worked on it for 6 months and ultimately we never pushed an episode live. And then, fast forward to today, different people, me and Jimmy became friends through FSW in the RuneScape community, and just as our friendship grew, I was like, I could possibly see myself doing a podcast. I really want to do one. I think Jimmy could be a good co-host, and so we actually got to work behind the scenes. Our boy Toby, he's my editor. You got to speak with Toby a little bit. He also does a lot of work on the podcast behind the scenes. He typically does our flow map for us, and so in our meeting, you got to have a conversation with him a little bit around that too. And so it's really nice to actually not only have the podcast started and actually do this thing, but also we've been consistently doing this thing for 6 weeks, which seems crazy because we're still so new into it, and we only do 1 episode a week. But to be able to say 6 weeks in, that's just an incredible endeavor. So especially because it was something that we never thought would get started, and here we are doing this thing. So I'm excited for the future with it, and we're super glad to have you as our first official guest on the podcast, dude. The very first.
That's awesome, man. So you said originally you wanted to do a podcast called No Bullshit?
Yeah.
So what inspired the name change to What in the?
Well, so No Bullshit was a project that I was doing with another buddy of mine, and his schedule just didn't work out, and things just didn't really work together in order to actually be able to make that podcast become a reality. And so I wanted this project to be as much as Jimmy's project as it was my own, and so it only made sense for us to go with a brand new name, go with brand new branding from the very beginning. And so Jimmy's been involved from the very beginning with the entire process behind the scenes, and so I wanted this it's 100%. I think that I could have continued with No Bullshit and brought Jimmy on as a host on that, but it wouldn't have felt like something he was involved in. I think from his perspective, it wouldn't have felt as it does with this podcast, just because he's had a say in everything around branding, around the overlays. So I thought that was really important. Awesome. Yeah, that was one of the things that I felt was just, in order for this to be as genuine and as good as possible, I felt like that was really, really important to do.
So how did you guys meet and start to have these ideas for podcasts and stuff?
Well, me and Jimmy had met through FSW.
Yeah.
Okay, that's how you met.
Yeah, he raided me one day because I didn't know it at the time, but I was in the same clan as he was. And then he just saw me in the directory doing Virago with a bunch of clannies, and then he was just like, "Hey, let's raid." The people in the clan was FSW DGen, so he's like, "Oh, let's raid this guy. He's in the clan." And then it just, we just became friends over that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, actually, it was really funny. So, I originally in FSW, I didn't even plan on starting a clan. Everybody was like, "You should just make a clan," and I was like, "Okay, fine. You know, we'll do a little clan." And then it became very apparent that our clan was going to become one of the biggest clans in FSW, and that wasn't even my goal. I didn't even want to make one to begin with. And so I think it was one day, it was like late night, I was after stream, and I saw Jimmy, and his title said, Degens, and I was like, wait, nah, no shot. And I click into his stream, and I see his entire clan chat in his chat box is FSW Degens. I was like, dude, he's in my clan. Like, I gotta rate him, gotta support the clanies. He didn't even know I was the leader. Actually, I think a lot of people in that clan had zero clue I was the leader of the clan, because it wasn't something that we like. I didn't like actively advertise my stream in the clan or anything like that, and so it was just really funny the way that it all worked out. But that ended up being how I had ran into Jimmy, and from there we just had a friendship and gamed it up. Little bit by little bit, that just kind of grew a little bit.
Yeah, it's crazy how you can just like meet somebody, rate them one day, and then 6 months down the road, you got 6 weeks of podcasts already happening.
Boy, and I actually, what's really funny about that, we can kind of equate that to mine and your relationship as well, Way, because I think at one point you came into my stream and you had complimented me, and I actually talk about this. I talk about this every now and then with the stream about how you gave me probably, I think, one of my biggest compliments I felt anybody could give, and maybe it wasn't like one of the biggest compliments that anybody could give, but it was coming from another content creator as well as like another Twitch partner, and so to me, it was like, that is like respect out the rip, and so it weighed even heavier because I was like, man, he actually just came through, said that out of nowhere. It was just unexpected. It was unexpected.
Well, let me explain it to you. So I've been obviously watching the RuneScape 3 category for like, I think probably about 3 or 4 months before I actually came and stumbled upon your stream, and like, no offense to any other streamers out there. They all make great content in their own ways, but I went to your stream and I was like, dude, this guy is entertaining. He's talking nonstop. He's got plenty to talk about, more than like just the game and what's happening on screen. And I was like, this is exactly what I want to do with my stream. So that's 100% the reason I even paid you the compliment. I was like, this guy is on another level from what I'm like kind of seeing in the RuneScape 3 section. But it's subjective. It's a personal opinion.
Yeah. That's incredible. One, I am flattered. Thank you. I really fucking appreciate that. That is, I mean, speaking of like subjectivity or subjectivity around content creation, and while we don't want to steer, and we're not going to get deep into this, there's been a little bit of that kind of going on, and trust me, Jimmy, don't worry, trust where I'm going with this, okay? Trust where I'm give me faith.
I trust the process.
Trust where I'm going with this. There's been a little bit of that subjectivity going on in the space as of lately, and it's actually funny because on my stream, if anybody was hanging out over the last day or so, on my stream we talked a lot about how I don't really view as any of that went on in the space, and you guys both know what I'm talking about, and everybody who has been around Twitter or even has been in the last stream, they know what I'm talking about. I don't really view that as anything. I don't view that as drama. I don't know what it is. I don't know what to call it. I think a lot of it is just misunderstood through text, and so I think the main purpose of what was being said was lost in translation, mixed with boredom. Yeah, quite literally.
Yeah, it's kind of like the game telephone, where it just changes the longer it goes on. That's
exactly that's how that goes, right? Like quite literally, that's where that goes. And so I don't want to make that the topic, and I don't want to get into that because I don't like preying on negativity or even sticking around that. And I know that there's negativity all around it. But yeah, it quite literally is just a bunch of BS, and it doesn't matter. But in terms of like subjectivity, isn't that incredible how subjective content creation can be? And so like what somebody views as like entertaining content, just like you said, Way, like to me or to you, I was super entertaining in the space, and I had stood out to you, and so because of you looking at it subjectively that way, what someone else might think I'm one of the worst content creators in the space, especially if you've been watching me over the last month to 2 months, where I haven't done anything in the game other than sit there and like chop trees or or do a little bit of archaeology. Like, I haven't done anything exciting in the game in a while, and I've been struggling personally to like keep that entertaining as I possibly can, while also acknowledging that I have to push through and kind of do that. Is there anything that you do in particular way when you have to go through some of this? I mean, you come from the old school community, and so like the time that you have to spend skilling is incredibly longer, and then now you're here in the RS3 community. So is there anything from your perspective that you think that you try to do to keep things entertaining even when the game just can't be that form of entertainment?
So like I streamed old school for about 2 months, a couple months back, and I had never made content with old school RuneScape prior to that. And to be honest, old school has a lot more clicking. So even if something is a longer grind, there's a lot more you have to do. You're like more actively playing the game than you might be with RuneScape 3. In terms of RuneScape 3, like I've had entire streams where I'm sitting there chopping trees, like you said, or like mining gem rocks for crafting. And there's no real like trick to it. The only thing you can do to keep it entertaining is like I say, like get up, take a break, get some water every once in a while, and just like kind of refresh. Because like if you're just sitting there doing the same thing, interacting with chat the whole time for like 4 hours straight, it's definitely an exhausting experience, right?
Well, especially if you're like trying to go, and Jimmy can kind of speak on this a little bit too, especially if you're trying to go above and beyond when you're doing something that isn't exactly entertaining. Like I remember in FSW, I sat there at a pond for a month and a half getting 200 mil hunter because I was grinding. We had a plan, we had a goal. My goal was I'm gonna get that halo for my Iron Man. What's the best route to do it? And my boy was like, yo dude, honestly I think you just need to go for hunter. Just like come do hunter with me. And I didn't think I was gonna get into whirly gigs, but before I knew it, 114,000 whirly gigs later 114,000 whirly gigs later. And then like the funniest part about, not only did I get 200 mil at whirly gigs, not only did I catch 114,000, and I did get my halo, and I ranked 36 for the hunter leaderboard in FSW. Damn. I got back to my Iron Man, and I had to get the comp wreck, so I had to go back to the fucking pond, dude.
Well, I would have just quit RuneScape. Just quit.
Yeah, and so for like 2 months in FSW, my entire entertainment was engaging chat, trying to be as exciting as possible while sitting there catching whirly gigs. And so I found it, I actually am thankful for the grind, because it allowed me to realize that people are more so here for me and not necessarily for whatever the fuck I was playing, because I could sit at a pond for 2 months and people were still tuning in and day out. And so
that's a good feeling, right? You know that they're there for you, because like you know, once you watch the first 20,000 whirly gigs get caught, you're probably kind of bored.
Well, dude, 20,000. I think once you watch 5,000 whirly gigs get caught, right?
For sure.
I will say, like, a lot of the FSW stuff was a lot grindy, so like you had to do those mundane tasks, and I felt like as like a new streamer, it taught me how to pick up the slack from the gameplay and interact with chat a lot more, because if you didn't interact with chat, you're just sitting there and nothing happens. So it was like a learning process, and I guess it just helped overall me become a better streamer like that. But
it was like creating a new account, right? No, 100%. I think you starting during FSW was a really great opportunity too, for you in general, because just being newer to the scene, you got a little lucky. You started at a good time. You caught a raid, and that gave you enough exposure that you were able to take that and move with that and shape it into what you wanted to, while still being, yourself. Whereas I feel like a lot of people, like for instance, right now, if you look at any category on Twitch, and I'm not even going to say the RuneScape community, but if you look at any category on Twitch, there are a lot of people that are at the very, 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 very bottom. And a lot of people think if you get that one raid, that's all you need. I just need that one raid. I need that host. I need that one person to come in to just help me break into the scene,
to save you.
And that's not the case. I think all of us at some point experienced, I think maybe even all of us at one point might have even thought that. We're like, dude, if I just get raided by Nade Shot with 20,000 viewers, like I'm in, I made it. Like I got this. But then you realize like that's not how this works. Like nothing is going to be given to you. You have to bust to get to where you are or to where you want to go. And no matter how you look at it, it's always going to be met with challenges, highs, lows, and just genuine grind. And I think it's really hard for a lot of people to stay dedicated in this space. And so, Wade, you've been doing this for a while. You said you started out as a YouTuber, right?
Yeah, I started out as a YouTuber. I was probably doing YouTube for about 2 months before I tried streaming. So it's kind of similar to Jimmy, though, in a sense. Like when you start a new account, you definitely spend a lot of time grinding stuff out, right? So my very first introduction to streaming, I think my very first stream was us doing rune crafting in RuneSpan. So it's not very entertaining content, right? So like he said, I kind of had to learn on the fly how to be a little bit more entertaining than just the gameplay is. And I think that's just a byproduct of like MMORPGs. Like it's the same if you're streaming World of Warcraft in a lot of cases, or Elder Scrolls or Final Fantasy or whatever it might be. So
yeah, because they are like, because especially with MMORPGs, I think that's where that unique perspective is too. Because like in a shooter, there's always constant action. You're constantly going from like, in a battle royale. Okay, I died. I'm gonna get right back into it. I'm gonna get a gun. We're gonna drop it. And we're gonna immediately have fights right off the rip. And in an FPS game or like Escape from Tarkov, you're gonna go and find that loot. You're constantly moving around. There's gunshots going. There's scavs that you got to worry about and kill. There's quests you're working on. But in an MMORPG, it is more of a long grind content, that longer fill, into where you got to go through those boring things to get to the exciting stuff that people like. And so it's actually funny because I think a lot of people look at it in the sense of like, well, why would anybody watch that? And then I think it's different in the RuneScape community. And maybe Wei, you can kind of chime in on this, and I know Jimmy can chime in on this for sure. It's different in the RuneScape community because I am convinced, especially after asking my own chat and talking with other people, I'm thoroughly convinced RuneScape players do not watch RuneScape streams. They listen to RuneScape streams.
100%.
I was told that yesterday in a Discord call.
They don't watch. Like,
it's more of like a background noise or like a podcast angle.
It's a podcast angle.
Yeah, but that means that they're there for you. You know, that's also like a good thing.
Well, to an extent,
what was the meme? They had a meme back in the day. I think the old school RuneScape category was called "Just Chatting with Buttons." Right. So
that's kind of funny.
Well, okay, so I guess it depends. Like when the old school RuneScape category was fresh to Twitch then, because at one point old school RuneScape was combined with
they were the
RS3.
same,
We were just
right?
under RuneScape.
Yeah, they were in the same category.
It might have just been the same category. I was probably paying way more attention to old school media back then. So.
Yeah, so see, that's interesting. And so for me, I've always been RuneScape 3, and I've never really did any old school. And now kind of diving and dipping my toes into old school a little bit. And you have kind of the opposite, where you've been old school and you're dipping your toes into RS3. Would you say there was any unique challenges swapping from old school to like RS3?
Yeah, there's a ton. First of all, like for me, I just was not a fan of RuneScape 3 for the longest time because of their microtransactions, the way they monetize the game. So that's like a mindset thing you have to get over, first of all. And then second of all, the game's completely different. Like it's night and day different. A lot of the core like foundations and ideas are the same, like the skilling system and stuff like that. But like combat, graphics, the tick system even feels different in RuneScape 3 because of how like the animations work. So there were a ton of challenges in the beginning, but it was a lot of fun off the rip. Like probably one of the most fun experiences I had in gaming was actually trying RuneScape 3 for the first time. So
really?
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah.
Okay, that's man, so me and RuneScape kind of have a checkered past.
Yeah.
Obviously, obviously you guys know, I got my start in the RuneScape community. That was like my big break in streaming, right? So it's different, right? Because you're a content creator, and I have always been a live streamer, not a content creator. And now I'm in this process where I've been doing this for 9 years full time, and I'm moving away from live streaming and pushing more into content creation, which is really hard on its own because for years, I've been doing 3,000 plus hours a year on Twitch as a full-time streamer. Yeah, like, I mean, we're talking minimum 7-hour streams every single day. And at one point back in the day when I got my big break, you could be an organic streamer, have organic growth, and actually become somebody through streaming. You can't do that anymore. You need to supplement with content. If anything, content is the most important, biggest priority priority, and then you throw streaming into the mix. And so it's weird for me as an OG to see the swap around and to see the change up.
Yeah.
I think it's even harder for me as an OG because you know what they say, right? Like they say you can't teach an old dog new tricks.
Yeah.
And so for me, I'm unlearning things and I'm not unlearning things, but I'm unlearning habits to then adjust so that I can keep surviving in the space. And I don't want to say keep surviving in the space, because surviving kind of sounds like struggling, or it sounds like you're just getting by, and that's not the case for me. And that's not, I'm not going to pretend like that's the case for me, because it's not. I've been doing this successfully for a very long time, and I want to continue to do this. And so in order to continue doing this, you have to be able to adapt, and that's the process that I'm in right now. I'm in the adaptation phase where I'm like, okay, the industry has changed and it's time for me to adapt. And so Way, for you, we had a small little bit of a conversation about how you've been super focused content creating, and now you're adapting and trying to become more live streamer focused.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge fan of watching live streams. So I've been watching Twitch for like probably the past 5-6 years on and off. I've had many different favorite live streamers, right? So I wanted to use YouTube as a way for like an avenue for me to eventually get to Twitch. Now, obviously I did that through RuneScape 3, and I've kind of pigeonholed myself. I'm quite successful in the RuneScape 3 space, both on YouTube and on Twitch. But I mean, at some point I want to be able to play other games, and I want to be able to sell myself as a little bit of a personality as well, because I think that's like one of the most important parts of content creation, whether it be streaming or YouTube personally. That's probably what I find so entertaining. Like if I had to pinpoint it, that's probably what I find really entertaining about your stream. And you've had 9 years to kind of perfect this craft, but you definitely have a personality. Like you could sell and use your personality as your branding, right? So that's something I eventually want to get into. It's not an easy skill to learn, though. It's not so easy to just pick up and, okay, today I'm going to start selling my personality. Like it's not something you can just do off the rip. So.
Yeah, I understand that perspective too. I was gonna say as well, like, fuck, I actually think I'm losing my train of thought on what I was gonna go with this. I saw the ad break because we have an ad in 5 minutes, and so I saw the ad break, and that giant yellow popped up, and it made
the money. Your eyes actually turned into money signs when you saw it.
Oh man, that's funny. Well. And so what I was going to say was, because we were on the topic of like content and like content creating and being a personality and trying to escape from the RuneScape community. I don't want to say escape, right? Like we're not trying to like, it's not this terrible place to be and we're trying to get out of it.
Say branch out is a better word.
Well, yeah, you could definitely say branching out. And so I guess we could say, without going too into detail at this very moment, because we do have an ad break in 4 minutes, and unfortunately I can't snooze it any further, and so we can put a little pin in it. I do want to start. I want to start when we come back with actually asking Jimmy specifically, because Jimmy has. Why are you making that face, man?
I heard my name, dude. I'm scared.
Yeah. Well, so Jimmy, you have a unique perspective with. The way I'll put it is this: I've had a lot of experience. I've learned through all of the different things I've tried. And Jimmy, I would say you're currently in that trying phase where for a while you felt like you had to stream RuneScape. And now, after a break, after focusing on mental and coming back and getting back into content creation and like live streaming, now you're working your way to branching out. And so I think that you can provide a little bit of insight on that. When we come back from the ad break, you can kind of give your thoughts, your feelings about how that's been working for you, what that looks like. And then I can share what my experience was when I first tried to branch out of the RuneScape community, and then we can compare that to now, what it's actually like branching out of the RuneScape community, because it's very different. Like back in, so like I started streaming in 2013. I got partnered in 2014. Back then, way different than now. Because at one point I would tell you, you're going to be stuck in the RuneScape community forever and you're not going to be able to leave. I no longer believe that. But it took me a really long time to believe that. So when we come back from the ad break, we'll dive into why my thoughts have actually changed on that. And Way, I think you'll probably agree with me. You may even be intrigued on what I have to say about that. So
yeah, definitely.
The podcast with me and your boy Jimmy and special guest Waydot, otherwise known as a two-time Golden Gnome nominee, two-time Golden Gnome winner. Yo, so you want to know what's really funny about that, Way? For like the last week and a half, I've been thinking about how I was going to introduce you on the podcast. And I didn't, I'm not one for scripts or anything. I like things to roll off the dome and roll off the top. And I was like, wait, Waydot's got Golden Gnomes, dude. I was like, I could definitely. Bro,
I forgot I even got them. Like, until you introduced me that way, like, I never even...
like, oh yeah, I do have one. That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, I haven't got them in the mail yet. They take like apparently 12 to 14 months to actually show up.
I believe that. I believe
what
that.
What the hell?
Oh, it's coming from the United Kingdom. It's got to be made. Does it have your name on it? Do you know?
I'm not 100% sure. But like, yeah, it's coming from the United Kingdom. I just went there 2 months ago. I went to Jagex headquarters. They couldn't give me them.
Yeah, they could have just gave it to you, right? You pulled it off. It's on the shelf.
Like, hey, since you're
it's
here,
on the shelf.
By the way, we got this gold. Here you go. You could just take that one home and send it through the mail or fucking check it into TSA.
Save the shipping cost, everything.
That is actually crazy. So right before the break, we were talking about what it feels like to be a RuneScape content creator in the sense of like someone who doesn't want to be forever known as a RuneScape content creator. I'm a very big person on like labeling. I don't like to be labeled. I don't like when people say small streamers, large streamers, medium streamers. I just remove myself from labeling in general because I don't think putting a label on anything is ever a good thing. And so we were talking about being RuneScape 3 content creators and trying to branch away from the RuneScape community. And so Jimmy's been doing that a little bit lately, and obviously I've been doing this for a very long time, and so I've been doing it for a while. But I want to hear a little bit, Jimmy, about your perspective. Maybe you can give some insight to Way, especially since this is something that Way is potentially looking to do in the future. I don't know about the near future, but just in the future in general. As Way said, he wanted to be more of a personality and not so much of like, I'm known for this, and this is what I'm known for.
Yeah. Like, let me put some backstory. So like I've been on Twitch for like since the beginning, like since Justin TV. And so I've seen a lot of personalities over the years. So I kind of got like inspirational. Oh, that'd be kind of cool. But like the thing is, it's really hard to grow. And I actually first started streaming on Rust. But the thing is, the category is so saturated that it's really hard to get noticed. So fast forward 2 years, I started playing RuneScape. I stopped playing Rust. And I was like, hey, what if I start streaming RuneScape, a game I know I can play for long periods of time, and that has a smaller category, so I can build up a following to eventually move out, because I've always wanted to be like a personality, like the organizations that make like your offline TV, your I'm blanking on the other ones, but yeah, they make content outside of the game. Yeah, right. So I wanted to do that. So that was my plan going in. I was like, let me just get my niche community. I'm going to stick my niche, milk it for as much as I can, and then eventually move out. Yeah, but like, just for like exposure, because again, like if you're in a saturated category, it's really hard, unless you're doing like YouTube, TikTok, and I didn't do any of that. I was just strictly on Twitch. So,
well, especially you were strictly on Twitch in modern day. So where we talked about how it's a lot harder to grow organically without doing any of the outside content. And so the other question I was going to ask is, so like for you, was it a plan specifically to come to the RuneScape community because you saw that there was opportunity for growth there? Or was it just like, hey, I enjoy this game, let's just go stream there?
Well, the thing is with RuneScape, you never actually quit. So you always come back, right? So that's a game I'll always enjoy. That's a game I'll always play. No matter how long the break is. I had the plan in the back of my head to always do that. But the thing is, like, it's kind of scary leaving, because once you leave the category, the people that only watch RuneScape are not going to follow. So you're going to take a dip in viewership. And, as streamers, when we see a dip in viewership, that's less money, not as much chat interaction. And for me, I thrive off like chat interaction. So if chat's not moving enough, it hinders like the way I perform on stream. So it's just like, it was always scary. Like I felt like a fish leaving the pond and going into the ocean. Is the best analogy I could use.
So like in a sense, would you say to an extent that you were kind of trapped by the numbers?
Yes. because if I left, the numbers would suffer, and I didn't want that because less numbers equals bad.
And
you know?
and so what's really funny about that is I think every content creator kind of goes through that where like maybe to some extent they, you know, let's say you play RuneScape for 3 years and you do really well in the RuneScape community, but you're just kind of burnt out on the game. You're tired of it. You're just not having as much fun as you could be having if you were, say, playing something else. And so but you feel stuck. That's actually how I described it back then. You feel stuck, as if you're stuck in the category, because when you do leave, you take such a big hit that you feel like there's nothing fruitful to be gained out of leaving because you took such a big hit.
Yeah. Or you fell off. Well, when really you didn't.
Well, and so the funny thing is about like when people say that like you fell off, it's always like I always find it more so on the viewership side of things. Like viewers always have the biggest opinions about like falling off, and it's always the viewer that puts more emphasis on what the viewership is like than the streamer. At least in my experience, like I'll be sitting, you know, in the RuneScape category. Like, so when I was actually doing engaging content, and the reason why I say when I was doing engaging content is because over the last 2 months, I'm burnt on PVM. I don't want to do any more PVM. A large portion of the RuneScape viewership is based around PVM. That's where a lot of people go to watch, because that is the more exciting content. It's like cluing or PVMing. And if you're not doing either of those, then it's like, it's not really the most exciting content in the sense of like you're cutting wood, you're, you know, I was chopping trees for the new wood cutting update for a minute. And so it was like when I was consistently doing like PVM content and doing a lot of PVM content, we're sitting there anywhere between 60 to 80 viewers. And then let's say I decide I want to, you know, leave the game and I'm pulling 40 viewers. Someone that is a viewer is going to come in and be like, man, you fell off, or what happened? Where'd all your viewers go? And I'm like, dude, I'm not even looking at my viewer count. How are you putting more emphasis on what my numbers are than me? And I've been doing this for, you know what I mean? It's like, and so I always find it as like the unique perspective. It's always the viewer that talks about the numbers more so than the streamer. And I think as a streamer, we always think about that in the back of our heads anyways. Like we're always sitting there, like we know what the numbers look like. But at the end of the day, your mental health and like being able to have fun and like being able to actually create fun content for yourself, I think is the most important thing. Because if you're not having fun, why the hell is your chat gonna have fun? Like if you're going in every day just like, meh.
If you're getting resentment, like let's say you feel stuck, so you just put on the stream and then you're already like, well, I got to stream this game that I don't enjoy, and then it'll just, you know, snowball.
I think the tough part with streaming compared to like YouTube, because what's crazy is I'll have the exact same thing happen on YouTube. I remember episode 4 of my series came out. It got, let's say, like 25,000 views, so it was really successful. And then episode 5 came out and it got 19,000 views. And I remember I had a comment. Some guy commented and was like, dude, your views are dropping. You're falling off. But 19,000 views. He thinks I'm falling off. I'm like, okay. But what's crazy about it being on YouTube is you don't have to deal with that in real time. So if your Twitch stats are down or your viewers are down or people are telling you fell off while you're live, you have to deal with that in the moment. And so I think that's where like a lot of the challenge comes from with that, right?
Yeah, so I talked about this before. I actually struggled mentally for a really long time. So as you guys know, I started streaming in 2013. I was 17 years old when I got partnered on Twitch. This was 2014, so I was very young, and I didn't know what Twitch was. Really, I didn't know where Twitch was going. I didn't know that I would be able to make money from this and like actually be able to do this as like a living and not have to worry about anything else. I didn't know that it would lead me down the path that I've gone to today, where I consider myself to be very successful. I didn't know any of that. I was a young, naive kid. And so I got partnered in July of 2014, and then I took a break. All right, I thought, to me at that time, I was like, dude, I'm pulling 500 viewers. I just went from 1,000 followers to 7,000 followers in 4 months. Like literally popping the fuck off. I was averaging, I think, 1,800 followers a month at one point on my come up. Yeah, it was just boom, boom, boom. And it all happened so fast, but I quite literally was like, yo, that's it. I did it. I can breathe. I can take a break. And I disappeared. I wasn't using Twitter. So like Twitter wasn't really that prevalent back then. Like it was, and like people who knew about it were using it, but I wasn't on Twitter. We didn't have Discord. We had a TeamSpeak channel. That was where me and the boys got together at the end of the night. We hopped into TeamSpeak 3. And so I thought I could take a break. I was like, yeah, dude, this is great. I did it. Twitch partnership. It's done, baby. Let's go. And I disappeared for a year. Damn, and the hardest thing I ever did to this day, the hardest thing I ever did was come back to streaming, because I came back in 2016, and fast forward, that's a year and a half or so. I'm almost 19 years old, and I go and hit go live, and no one showed up.
Like no one, or like just compared to what you were getting.
Compared to what I was getting, I think 40 people showed up to my first stream back, which is. Don't get it.
That's a lot, bro.
No. Listen. Let me phrase it.
To me, that's a lot.
Don't get it twisted. That's a fucking lot. That's more than a bedroom filled of people. That is a lot of viewers.
That's a house party.
But I was pulling 500, and so the first thing I did at 19 years old was go. No one likes me anymore. My content is shit. And I spiraled. Because it wasn't even like I came back to RuneScape. I was still burnt as fuck out on like RuneScape. And so like I didn't come back to RuneScape. I came back to very, very minimal percentage of my audience. I came back to a different like game, different plan, different schedule. And so I just expect, like, I don't know why, but I had expected more when I came back. And so when I had actually got back to streaming, the biggest thing I dealt with that deleted me even more as like a person was people would come into my stream and they wouldn't be like, you fell off. They wouldn't be like, oh, you fell off, or what happened to all your viewers. They would go, how are you a partnered streamer with 25 viewers?
That would fuck me up.
And I would hear it weekly. That shit stung, dude. That shit hurt. It was always like, how are you a partnered streamer? You only have 20 viewers. And in the moment, I would just shit on that person. It's like what the fuck? Like I would just shit on him. That was my defense mechanism. My mechanism was to like literally just dunk on him. But then afterwards, it would sit and it would weigh, and I would sit there and I'd be like, man, how, like, he's not wrong. Like I don't have viewers anymore. Like back then, especially, you needed. On Twitch, there wasn't like a set number. It wasn't like 500 viewers, but you had like the number on the application was 500 CCV, but they fluctuated that number based off of the category you were in. So in the RuneScape community, it averaged, the RuneScape community back then averaged like 1,000 to 2,000 viewers. So I got partnered with roughly an average of 300 to 350 viewers. It wasn't like a hard lock 500. They just saw my percentage of viewership to the percentage of the community and the growth scale that was up like this. And they're like, yeah, this person could be a successful Twitch partner. And so I got denied 6 times. So like, really? I got denied Twitch partnership 6 fucking times. And this was on this climb, right? This was on this climb. We could probably say realistically it was like 4 times that I got denied. I applied twice, like mad early. I thought I was a shit. I was young. I was like, yeah, dude, I got 30 viewers, 1,700 followers.
You hit me on the application.
Yeah, I'm like, yo, I'm fucking doing this thing. And I'm like, yo, I could convince him with my words in the application that why they should partner me. And it wasn't until July of 2014. Tyler Nocenzo, he goes by Tino's. People know him. The only reason I said his name fully is because he was well known in the Twitch community back then by that name, Tino's. Yep. Shout out to Tino's because he was the person that accepted my Twitch partnership application. Yeah, and so he was the partnership guy that actually gave me my shot to do this, and like it led to everything moving forward, right? But one of the hardest things to ever deal with in content creation was people asking me how the fuck I'm a Twitch partner. And the whole time I didn't know how to, like, I was young. My brain was still developing. I didn't know how to deal with that level of like animosity towards me. And that didn't come, that came, like, being able to deal with that and like brushing that shit off, that came with experience. And so like, like you were saying, like, you got a comment, you don't have to deal with that in real time. But I'm sure that still weighs on you, right? Like to an extent, maybe not like it did before, but like
everybody.
That was like I said, that was like episode 5 for me. So like back then, YouTube comments were cutting deep. I didn't know how to deal with public perception of me or anything like that. So yeah, of course, I was still in the very, very early days of that. So that comment probably pissed me off for a good week and a half, if I'm being honest.
At least, right? Like at least. Yeah. And for me, it was like I was receiving a comment like it wouldn't even be people who followed me. It wasn't even like followers or people who were in my community. It was just people who were
Just
trying
random
to.
ass people?
Well, they were a lot of the times it was people who were trying to make content themselves, and they were jealous of Twitch partnership because back Twitch partnership means nothing now. I'll put it this way: like in comparison, like what it meant back then and what it means now, are like it means nothing now in comparison.
Wildly
and so
different,
back then, people were like, "Dude,
Wow.
you're a Twitch partner. That's crazy. How the fuck are you a Twitch partner?" Because they wanted to make content themselves, or they were making content themselves, and they're like, "Well, this guy's got Twitch partnership."
Yeah,
He's
why are you
got
guys
20
Twitch partners
viewers.
and I'm not.
Yeah, and so I think a lot of it came from like a place of envy. I don't even think I like a lot of it. Like some of it was genuine questions, and then some of it was like just straight up just hatred, like just pure disgusting, like just being assholes to be assholes. Right? We deal with that a lot on the internet as content creators. And so that was something that took me I think for 3 years I struggled.
No doubt.
I focused so much on that aspect that my content sucked because of it. My streams sucked. I wasn't enjoying content creation because I was like, well, yeah, dude, I did have 500 viewers. Now I have 20 viewers. I don't like this shit anymore. I suck. And so it was easy for me in my brain to justify all of the reasons of why it was my fault or why it was my problem, and like at the time it may not have even been that. And so I convinced myself that my content and that my stream was bad, and that's why people weren't watching me. And when I convinced myself that that was the problem, I had further convinced myself that I was I don't want to say wasting my time, but that like this was never going to happen. Like I would sit there like for years, I would sit there like, why am I still doing this? I'm putting so much effort into this, so much time into this. And I was so focused on the negatives, I hurt myself more in the long run. I spent probably 2 years of like wasted time content creating. And the reason why I say it was wasted time is because I spent 2 years just focusing on the negatives and not looking at like the positives. Or I tell people nowadays, I'm like, dude, just focus on like who you have around you right now. I said those are the only people that matter, because at the end of the day, if you have 20 people that are surrounding you right now, those 20 people are going to be your key to bringing that to 30 people and to bringing that to 40 people. So if you're sitting there worried and focused on the 30 people that aren't there, you're missing the 20 people that are there. And eventually, if you keep focusing on those 30 that aren't there, those 20 are eventually going to trickle down too, because you're not actually giving them the content that they deserve or the content that they want to watch. And so I was so focused on what wasn't happening that it actually fucked me up on what was happening. And I was blind and I couldn't see that I was hurting myself in the long run. So that was something that it took a long time to get through that. Like I struggled for years.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know, people always talk about like staying present, and it's like this. It's kind of like a buzzword that people are using in like a lot of like self-help communities, and like, or even you'll hear it like with parenting. I have a 2-year-old son. You want to stay present with your children. It's the exact same thing you're talking about though, because when you're looking at your chat and maybe you're caught up in like the negatives and you have way less viewers than you used to have, you're not being present because you're immediately thinking about, oh, I used to have more viewers. I used to do better or whatever. And chat will pick up on that immediately. Your fans that are watching you, they're going to be able to tell right away that you're totally not into it and you're not on your A game. So yeah, 100%, man.
Yeah. And so Jimmy, you kind of have a unique perspective because,
yeah, I was going to say, so when you went through that period, you didn't really have anybody. So I'm very fortunate and I can use your experience. I felt like if I didn't have you telling me about the low periods and not worrying about the people who aren't there and worry about the people who are there, I'd be in a worse position. So I feel like I'm very fortunate in that sense where I can use your experience to be like, okay, all right. I don't have to take it that seriously. I know this is going to happen, and have like an overall brighter outlook. Because I'm in that period right now where I left the RuneScape category, and then I'm trying to be more of a content creator now, more than just a live streamer. But yeah.
Yeah, and so like exactly right with that viewership drop, and we were talking about like moving out of the RuneScape category and like witnessing that viewership drop. My community will tell you, Way, especially with you being newer here, they'll tell you I was a flake. I would stream RuneScape 4 to 6 months and then I would leave. This is the longest period in which I have consistently streamed the game. If anything, my mods will joke about it. They're like, yeah, you're overdue. They'll literally joke about it. They're like, yeah, you're overdue. Like, you're overdue for a break. And I don't pretend like they're not right. They're right. Like, I haven't taken a break from RuneScape in a long time, and I was known for it's weird because RuneScape was always my home, right? Because it's where I got partnered. It's where I had my big break. And the funniest part of all that is one of my earliest viewers, and I actually love him. He's a homie. I still play games with him to this day. He's like, dude, don't play RuneScape. He's like, don't stream RuneScape. You're gonna regret it. And at the time, I realize it more now than I did back then. But if I had listened to him, none of this probably would have happened. Like, even us being here right now on this podcast, if I had actually listened to him, if I had took his advice and I just kept playing CSGO. And so for him, it was kind of like a selfish reason. He just didn't want me to stop playing CSGO. He wanted me to keep playing games with him, and he wasn't interested in RuneScape.
Well, that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah, he wasn't into RuneScape, and so he didn't want me to go because I wasn't going to be like, I was going to be focusing on RuneScape. And so for him, he had his reason behind it, and I don't hate him or anything about it, but I realize how important it is to trust yourself more than it is to trust it. Like, always, like, talk to other people, get feedback, but always trust yourself in the process, because you're gonna know better than anybody else. And so, like, yeah, if I had listened to that advice and never went to RuneScape and never tried to stream RuneScape content, I probably wouldn't be a Twitch partner. I probably wouldn't be a full-time content creator. I probably would live a very, very, very different life, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's one thing to, like, we read those hate messages, and hate messages suck. No one ever wants to get them. And I think the people who send them don't necessarily realize, like, what that could actually mean on, like, the mental of a content creator. Because it's actually the best way to, like, put this out there is, like, you guys saw the drama recently in the space with, like, Ninja dogging on Stable Ronaldo.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
And Stable Ronaldo's very, very successful. But Ninja, someone who is equally known as, like, one of the biggest gamers out there because of his fame, Ninja, more than anybody, knows what that's like, right? Like, all of us know as content creators, that's one thing we all have in common. We know what it's like to do this dedicatedly, to do this hours on end, to not necessarily receive praise from it. And we're not, like, looking for praise, but we see more hate than we see praise, right? Like, why is it harder for people to compliment somebody than it is for people to shit on them or, like, knock them down? And so we put, it's like, okay, I'll put it this way. It's easier for me to hold on to a negative comment than it is for me to hold on to the compliment. Yeah. If anything, we'll reject the compliment. We're like, nah, thanks, dude, lying, but nah, whatever, bro. Yeah. We'll literally push the compliment back.
We'll disregard it.
And we'll hold tight onto the hate. We'll micro focus onto the hate. I don't know why that happens. It's like a human thing. It's a mental thing. It's like a
survival
thing.
mechanism stuck in us from probably, thousands of years ago when we were cavemen. But, like, definitely, you're going to see the hate message and you're going to remember that way more than you ever remember any compliment.
And it's so weird how that is, right? And so for me, it was like, there was a couple of things. I'm not going to get into, we talked about it in a recent podcast, and I just don't want to, like, put anybody the wrong way.
Don't rehash it.
One of the things that really helped me mentally gain clarity was that I started to smoke weed. Like, like
1 or 2.
That physically helped me. Like, that was able to help me, one, realize, like, none of those fucking people even matter. Like the people that are hating on me, they're not watching my streams. They're not supporting me. They're not giving me subscribes. They're not donating to me. They're not subbing to me. They're not tipping, hype chatting. They're not watching my videos. They're not doing anything at all that interacts in a way that supports me. So why am I paying so much attention to that one person? Like, they're literally irrelevant in that sense. And so in content creation, it's easier said than done, but it is incredibly, incredibly freeing when you can separate that person probably just has their own shit going on, and that at the end of the day, it doesn't hinder you at all. Actually, like, it's corny, but they say, like, let your haters be your motivation. It is the rawest and truest form of like, literally.
No, there is some truth behind it, even though it's a super cliche saying, right?
Oh, it's extremely cliche. But there is there's an ad starting right now. Chat, I did not realize the ad break because we were so deep in the conversation. There is an ad starting right now. We will stick a little pin in it. That's my B. We're lacking a little bit. I will say really quickly before the ad break drops, there is a level of power that a content creator gains by being successful and dunking on someone who said they wouldn't be. I'm not above it. I love it. Yeah. I had people tell me, like in the past, people are like, yeah, you'll never be a partnered streamer. And I was like,
what the
that's
heck?
Crazy. We are back from the ad break. So we are officially going to dive back into it. Welcome back to What in the Podcast with me and your boy, Jimmy, and myself, CrossFireX, and special guest, two-time Golden Gnome nominee, two-time Golden Gnome winner, Waydot himself. If you guys didn't hear, that guy is crazy. Welcome back to the podcast. Welcome back from the ad break. That guy fucks, dude. Yeah, man. That guy fucks. So we were on the topic of just haters, right? Haters. And you know what's crazy about that is how haters are the motivators. And as cliche as it said, we talk about let your haters be your motivators, but at the same time as content creators, it's very easy for us to also let our haters be demotivators, and haters a lot of the times can affect the way that we would do our content.
Yeah, there's some points where I didn't even want to stream because I got like hate, or somebody said a negative ass comment. I'm like, I don't even want to fucking stream no more. That's happened at least like once
Jimmy's
or twice.
got a single tear running down his
face. Yeah.
Well, and so it's weird. Like I said, like we talk about like letting haters be our motivators, but there's been obvious times in my content in which like somebody has said something and I've pivoted content because of that. Has that ever happened with you, Way? You ever had to like experience? How do you work through that?
Yeah, so especially for me, because when I started on Twitch, I was still brand new to RuneScape 3. So instead of necessarily hate, I got a lot of backseating. And at first I was like super grateful for all the help that I was getting in game. But it got to a certain point where people were like trying to control the stream and control the content. They're like, why are you doing this? You need to be doing this. You need to be doing that. And then I would eventually get into arguments with them sometimes. And like I dealt with it so horribly in my first little bit on Twitch that it eventually ended up turning into people would come to my stream to hate on me because of the arguments I would get in with backseating and stuff.
Really?
How did I deal with it? I think at a certain point, I just realized that like I didn't want to go live because I didn't want to deal with like this kind of community argument that I had fostered. And actually I took a break from streaming for about, I think 3 weeks. And I just focused up on YouTube. And I came back to streaming and I just set some rules for my chat. I was like, guys, if you backseat or like try and tell me what to do, I'm not going to listen to you and you might actually get timed out. And we kind of set that expectation moving forward. And there's two different types of backseating, right? There's the type where they're genuinely trying to help you. And there's the type where it's like they're trying to like control you. It's almost manipulative. It's super weird. But just setting ground rules and kind of laying down the law when you need to with your chat, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of streamers, that's something that like newer streamers kind of struggle with, is you have to realize like your community is your community. You have to set those boundaries. And if you don't set those boundaries, people are going to walk all over you. And so you have to eventually at some point, be like, that's it. Like, we're not doing that. This is
the line. Do not cross. You got to be like adamant because like first, like, as a new streamer, you want to be appealing to everybody. You don't want to create waves. You want everybody to have a great experience, you know? So when somebody says some like questionable shit in chat, I would be like kind of reserved and not like I would speak or do anything really about it because I didn't want to create drama or anything. But like, it doesn't really work in the long term. Like you have to have a line and tell people like, no, we're not crossing that. These are the rules. This is my stream at the end of the day. It is what it is.
Yeah, I think like when you're newer, you don't want to like step on anybody's toes. Like you're trying to obviously garner an audience, and like you're trying to make it something like really unique, and like actually make it something that is a form of success for yourself. And so when you're new, you don't want to like just shit on somebody in your chat, because then other people might take that the wrong way. But then also at the same time, you're just trying to like, you're like tiptoeing, right? Like you're trying to be quiet, but even though you don't need to be quiet. And at the end of the day, I actually call it like, this is my little section of the internet. And if I'm not happy with my little section of the internet, then how is that fun? And so it's gotta be something that, at the end of the day, no matter what, you're in control of it, and you got to be able to enjoy that. And so you have to shape it that way. And it takes time, right? Like you're going to find what works for you, what doesn't work for you. And everybody's different, right? Like no two content creators are the same. It does take time. Well, yeah, no matter what.
I got a question for you guys. Like for me personally, at first it felt like I was being like mean when I would tell people like to stop this or act a certain way, but like through some experience with it, I've almost turned it into like a comedy routine. Like we can make it really lighthearted in the way that I tell people like stop behaving a certain way in chat. Have you guys kind of found that works for you, or have you found your own method to go about it? Or
for me in particular, for me in particular, as I've gotten older, I stopped caring what people thought about me.
Yeah.
And so I stopped letting that potential of like what people thought about me dictate how I would act. And when I stopped doing that, if somebody came into the chat and you said some off-base shit, I'm going to meet you with some off-base shit. I reciprocate energy. Yeah. So if you come in and you're like a little trolly, I'm only going to give you a little trolley back. If you come in completely off fucking base, I'm going to come out wild as shit, and I'm going to make you think twice about coming off base with me. Being newer to my community, I don't ban people in my chat. My mods, like, you can ask any of them, they'll all respond in chat. I don't fucking ban people because I'd rather I'm not mature enough to not shit talk you. I like to shit talk. And so if you're gonna come in and you're gonna come meet me with some heat, I'm gonna come back with double the heat and I'm gonna have fun with it. But eventually my mods are like, okay, we got to step away from this. It's becoming too much. We got to ban them. And then they'll ban. And I'm like, come on, man. Why'd you ruin my fun? Like, fuck. I was about to fry that motherfucker.
I was farming them.
Yo, literally.
I was farming them for content.
Like,
what the hell?
And that would have already been going on for 35 minutes. You know, because like over here in the RuneScape 3 community, you probably haven't gotten it yet. You probably haven't gotten it much yet, Way.
Oh, shit.
But there are old school viewers that will just come into RuneScape and they're like,
RS3's trash. You're playing the wrong game.
RS3 instead of old school. And it's like, what the fuck? Like, why the fuck do you play video games? Like, that's like essentially what that question is. It's like, why do you think I'm playing this game? Because I fucking like it. If I didn't like it, I wouldn't be playing it. So it's like, that's the dumbest question you could have asked me was, why am I playing this versus old school? What they really meant to say was, why do you like RS3 better than old school, or have you tried old school out? But it's always why are you playing the worst game? Why aren't you playing old school? Old school is better.
I'm heavily opinionated about that topic, and I've actually done a full podcast on that very topic before.
Really?
I have a super unique position on it because I switch between the two games, right?
Yeah.
So I get it on both ends. I get RS3 players who see me playing old school and they're pissed. They're livid. Why are you playing the worst game? Why are you playing the older game? And then I go to RuneScape 3, and obviously I've seen those viewers as well, right? So I see it on both sides.
See, that's weird because with my experience of like going over to old school and playing some old school, and while I haven't done a lot of it, I haven't had anybody that was like from RS3 that was like, what the fuck are you doing over here? If anything, people were like, are you tired of RS3? Did you quit RS3? And I was like, no, I didn't quit, man. Every time you play another game that isn't your main game and you're not like an established variety streamer, people are always going to come in and be like, did you quit? It's like, what the fuck?
Where the fuck?
Like, where the fuck do you see that, dude? Like, how did...
Yep. I quit.
Is that underneath your keyboard? Like, where the fuck did you see that I quit? Like, that doesn't even add up,
a different game for one day. Yeah, I quit, bro.
Yeah, and so I'm the kind of troll way where if I get the same question over and over again, by the 4th or 5th time, I'll start changing my answer to it.
Yeah.
And so
reverse troll.
I do that too. I've done that before.
What was it? Someone asked, I think a lot of people were asking me if I had the tree shaking scrimshaw.
Oh my god.
And I got so sick of people asking me.
Yeah, people are one, they didn't know you were an iron. That was the funny part.
And I got tired of explaining it. I got tired of fucking explaining that shit.
There's a lot of backseating. Like,
it wasn't even like backseating. I think they were just genuinely trying to help because I went 7,500 elder logs without the hatchet. Like 7,500 elder logs. People are like, you didn't get your hatchet yet?
I did 60 hours.
So. Yeah. And so people were like, eventually people would come in and they'd be like, do you have the tree shaking scrimshaw? I'd be like, yeah, I already use it.
Yeah.
I didn't even fucking have it. I didn't have it unlocked. I'm like, yeah, I already used one. It didn't work. And then they just wouldn't ask me again. I would just start changing my answer. Like I would just like answer it with anything. Like it actually was funny. It was within a 5-minute period, and this is a different topic, not even about the tree shaking scrimshaw. I don't remember what it's about, but someone asked me a question and I answered it. And like 3 minutes later, someone came in and asked the same shit, and I answered it completely different. And the person who asked me originally laughed because they knew what my answer was to them, and then I think in that moment they were questioning if I even gave them a real answer because I had trolled the other person with it. And so that's my way of having fun with my chat. And only the real ones fucking know. Like the people who were sitting there the whole time listening to me answer it every single time, they know the real. And so it's kind of like one of those things. I'm a big fan of like leveled comedy, like layers. I love when there's layers to a joke. And so a lot of the times my funniest content is shit that only 3 or 4 people are going to understand because they were there for it or because they get the reference. I think that's funny. I think that's hilarious. I think that is probably one of the better forms of comedy.
I'd agree.
Is the stuff that not everybody gets, the stuff that's funny,
insider joke
that everybody can laugh at, but not everybody understands the real meaning of it, and so it's funnier to the people who do get it. And so yeah, I'm a big fan of like layered comedy, and so that was my way of trolling
comedy.
That was my way of just changing it up whenever you get tired of answering the same thing 58 fucking times, and you're like, dude, 59, I'm changing my answer, and I don't know what it's gonna be, but when they ask, I'm just gonna have a different answer, and you just go with it. Yeah, that you get a lot of that stuff. It's just so content creation is unlike anything I've ever done. And I don't have a lot of experience. I don't want to say I don't have a lot of experience working because I'm a hard worker. But I'm in a very unique position that I got started early enough and that I happen to be successful as a full-time streamer. I only work 2 jobs. And so,
Really?
yeah, I worked at KFC from 14 until 17. And then I worked at a gas station from 17 until roughly 20. It was just about 20, I think, when I stopped working there. And then from there on out, I just went full-time. How old are you, if
you don't mind me asking?
How old do you think?
Do you tell people that?
I do.
How old do I think you are?
Yeah. Like if you had to put a guess.
I'm going to say, I think you're a bit younger, to be honest. I think you're 24.
Really? Like that. Hell yeah.
I was gonna take that and run with it, dude.
I fucking like that. I'm 24. No. I'm 26. Okay, so gotcha. I'm a lot older than I look. I've had people come into the stream and they're like, yeah, you look like you could be 18. And I'm like, 18? I got a fucking house, bro. I had a whole mortgage and bills and shit. It's like, damn, I'm doing all right. Yeah, I'm 26. You know what they say, man. Black don't crack.
You're 1 year younger than me and you got a mortgage, so your life's more figured out than mine.
Well, yeah, on the outside it looks that way, right? Like everybody always thinks, and it always like it looks like I got things more figured out. The reality is we're all the same in the sense that like life is fucking crazy and everybody's doing things at different times of their life. And the reality is as long as you're enjoying life, that I think that's really the only metric that you can compare.
100%.
You know, yeah. It's actually, I find it funny because people will be like, well, you're so smart, you could be doing this and you could be getting paid this much an hour. I was like, what does all that money mean if you don't enjoy it? What does it mean?
Yeah,
doesn't matter. And people don't even like, okay, because there's an extent of relatability, and when you pass the point in which your audience can relate with you, it usually ends up being bad. And so I don't want to say things that would make me seem unrelatable, because that's very much not the case. Like the reason why people can relate to me is because I have a lot of experiences that they can share with me. But to some extent, there becomes a point in which like you do become unrelatable no matter what, right?
He's gonna tell us about his mansion.
No, I don't, dude. Fucking, you guys have got to stop that. I don't have a mansion, bro.
His fucking mansion, bro.
I don't
He's
have.
only got 10 bedrooms, so that doesn't actually classify as a mansion just yet.
No, I'm not. I'm not rich by any means. That
was a joke.
But I'm comfortable, and And that's how I describe it is thanks for letting me borrow the McLaren. God damn it, Toby. But yeah, so yeah, I like to say that for my age, I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Yeah. So yeah. But all that shit's subjective anyways, right? Like it's actually funny. This brings me into a really good topic. Have you had it, Way? And Jimmy, you can say this too. Have you had it where people define your success based off your numbers?
Oh yeah,
of course. That's content creation.
Well, true, right? Yeah, right.
So I actually, so I have a video on my YouTube channel. Shameless plug, not really, but I went through my earnings for the first year that I did YouTube RuneScape content, and obviously that's just YouTube, that's just AdSense. But I had so many people comment on that video. They're like, bro, I need to donate to you because you're fucking broke. I was like, yo, I stream on Twitch, guys. I get sponsorships. Bro. I swear I'm not that broke. Everybody in the comments was like, dude, you can't live off that much money, man. That's tough. I was like, damn.
That's funny. Yeah, no, I understand that completely, right? Because people are always going to have what they believe to be their measurement for success, and everybody's success is different, and so people will always equate you to your numbers. And so like people, you know, you could be a 20 viewer streamer, and I actually know somebody I know on average she pulls between 30 to 45, maybe 50 viewers at times, and she got a Road Cup and she sold it out. There are content creators bigger than her that got a Road Cup as well, and theirs are still sitting in the shop with numbers to be sold still. And so people will always try to equate you to your numbers, and if you don't have the numbers that they think make you successful, they're going to assume you're not successful. And I always tell people that, like, I think success is measured in experience. I think success is measured in, are you living comfortably? Can you do it full time? Do you like doing it? And then to an extent, success is measured with your personal satisfaction of it, right?
Yeah.
And it so it's from within. Yeah, 100%. It comes from within, right? Like my idea of success isn't going to be your idea of success, and it's not going to be Way's idea of success. And so I've been trying to push viewers away from the idea that like numbers are everything, because they're not. They're not. Like, there are plenty of people that you don't know about that are full-time streamers that are living comfortably that may only have 30 to 40 viewers. I mean, just to give an example, there is a content creator in the RuneScape community right now who is on like a 117-day fucking subathon. Has more subs, has more tips, has more bits in those 117 days than people have ever seen with hundreds of viewers in their content creation experience. And so people will always equate you to your numbers, and I never understood why that was a thing.
And like, it doesn't matter because, and you should never rely on this as like a smaller creator, but you just don't know when that one person who's feeling extremely generous comes in and just like loves your content and drops 50 subs or drops 20 subs. That happens to people with only 5 to 10 viewers. I've seen it, right?
Yeah, I mean, quite literally, there are people that went over to Kick and had 10 viewers but had 1,000 subs, and I'm like, God damn! And you look at that split on Kick, yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, they automatically assume that like the higher the numbers, the better, and it's like we talked about this too with like my success with Rogue Energy. I'm wildly successful with Rogue Energy as a sponsorship, and I am doing better numbers than 90%, probably even higher percentage of the actual partners. And there are people who pull 1,000 viewers, and I'm doing better than the majority of the people that are sponsored by the company. And so, yeah, I think it's always funny. Isn't it weird how subjective shit like that can be? Yeah, people place I don't want to say an unimportant amount of like priority to numbers, but they do. Because immediately, like, if you have 1,000 viewers, they're gonna be like, man, you're crazy successful.
Yeah, I guess like put so much emphasis on the numbers when it really, like, that it is a part of it, but it's not like the whole picture.
Yeah, it's never the whole picture, right?
Yeah.
And so I was actually gonna say what's really like interesting with that too is that how do I put this? I keep it $150, boys.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I lost it. I just gonna keep it.
I was wondering. I was like,
yeah. In the process of phrasing it, I fucking lied. I didn't keep it real with you guys.
I lost.
Here's my take on it. I think numbers matter to an extent. I think if but it needs to be a broader sense of it. If you're between 50 and 100 viewers, I'd say that's like, those are like goals you can set yourself, right? So like for me, I would like to hit 100 viewers every time I have a RuneScape 3 stream. So that's the goal I set myself. It doesn't always happen, and I don't have to feel bad about it if it doesn't happen, but that's my goal. And then maybe once I have a consistent 100 viewers, I might set the next goal at like 250. And I think like the numbers matter to an extent, but I think putting so much emphasis on it, especially when the viewers come in and they say, oh, you're falling off or whatever like that, it can also be unhealthy. So.
Well, actually, yeah, no, you brought me back to where I was going to go with this too. For instance, when you leave a category, like if you're a RuneScape content creator and you leave a category, and so like for right now with Jimmy, what would you say your average viewership is right now?
Probably 10 to 15.
So 10 to 15, you got 10 to 15 dedicated people at all times that no matter what you play, they're going to watch you play it because they enjoy you and they enjoy your content. That allows you to realize that you have a solid base and you can take that 10 to 15 and use that to grow. And so, like I said, back in the day, the boys would call me a flake for RuneScape in the RuneScape community because I would come here and I would pull, 50, 60, 70, 80, whatever, however many viewers playing RuneScape. And then I would leave and only have 20 viewers. Well, I spent years doing this in many, many different categories. I'd go and build a community in Escape from Tarkov. I went and built a community in a game called Infestation Survivor Stories. I went and built a community in Roblox. No bullshit, I did that. We'll get into that later. I went and built a community in Apex Legends. I went and built a community in all of these different games. And while the long term viewership wasn't the greatest, because if you just play one game, your growth is easy, right? Like if you just play one game, you focus on one game, you're always known for that game, that growth is going to come to you a lot easier than somebody who is constantly playing different games. And so I would do I always called myself like a long form variety streamer. And when I say long form variety streamer, I would do like 4 to 6 months on any game, like maybe like 3 to 5 months, right? Like I'd play Tarkov for like 3 months and then I'd go play GTA RP for like 3 months. Over the years, I didn't realize how strong of a community I was building by doing that. And so people were always looking at, and maybe this is a unique experience to me, and maybe this isn't going to be the case for other people who try this strategy out, but for years, you could look at that and go, well, I'm not growing because I play too many different games, or I'm not growing because of this or this or this reason. And what ended up happening was, eventually I realized I can go play any game I want. I don't consider myself a RuneScape content creator, even though that's been the one game I've been playing the most over the last year. Because I know that if I want to quit RuneScape tonight and I go and play another game, I'm going to be okay. I know that I'll have my core viewership. Not only do I have my core viewership, I know that when I go to another game category, I have viewers that follow me for that game. Just like I have viewers in the RuneScape community that only watch me play RuneScape, I know when I go to that category that they're going to follow me for that game. And so by doing that, by going and playing all these other games and building all these other communities, I actually built a, I guess you could say like a loyal following is what you would call it. Absolutely. And so each of those different games I played helped me find a new regular viewer, like somebody who would watch me play whatever. It helped me break into having more regular viewers, which led to me having more of a regular audience that will watch me do whatever. And so that ultimately has led to me being free as a content creator, where I don't feel stuck in the RuneScape category. Like if RuneScape ever decides it's going to drop off entirely and it's no longer a thing, there's probably a considerable number of people who aren't sure where they're going to go with that or what they're going to do next. I don't share that experience because of the way that I built my stream over X amount of years, that I now have the freedom that I can, like even with Kick streaming, right? Like I go over to Kick, I pull the same viewers I pull on Twitch and play in an entirely different game, playing in and it's not even the same viewers. That's the crazier part about it. It's not even the same viewers. I have people that watch me on Kick that don't watch me play RuneScape on Twitch, but they see my Discord notification, they see my tweets about when I'm going live on Kick, and they come and join me because they know what game I'm playing over there. And so, yeah, that has been one of the key elements to being able to just kind of be free from the community. And so, Way, I know you, that's something that eventually you're trying to like kind of gear up and go towards.
I've done it before. I went and played World of Warcraft Classic when Wrath of the Lich King came out. And I had about, I'd say 20 viewers that followed me. So that's my core audience, right? I do have those 20. But I wasn't in the right mindset to be doing that back then. I think nowadays I have a completely different way of thinking about it, right? And I'd understand that I'm growing an audience in a different category or potentially reaching new viewers that you'd never reach otherwise. But yeah, it's massively impressive how you like would go to Kick and there's 60 people in your stream playing a completely different game when you were just streaming on Twitch, RuneScape to 60 people. Like I was like, what? So yeah, you definitely have an extremely loyal fan base that'll follow you to any game because they're there for you, which is super impressive.
Well, I think back in the day, I would argue that if you were a RuneScape content creator, you're forever stuck in RuneScape.
Yeah.
I think nowadays it's easier to it's easy to be stuck there. I think nowadays it's easier to get out of RuneScape. More so than people think. And now some of you guys might be like, what do you mean by that? And what I mean is RuneScape as a whole is not viewed as positively as it was back then. As a whole, people are getting older. The game's been out 22 years. It's not, and this is subjective because this isn't, and not everybody's going to agree with this, but it's not as exciting. It doesn't have that oomph as it once used to have for a lot of people. And more people, I think, are putting the game down and stepping away from it entirely. And because of that, I actually saw a different scenario, one that I didn't think would happen. And we do have an ad break coming up in 3 minutes, and so we'll get through this, and then we'll come back to it. One thing I actually noticed at one point, I realized I stayed in the RuneScape community too long. The people who were watching me for RuneScape, especially after FSW, the people that were there for RuneScape, they got tired of the game. They put the game down, so they stopped watching RuneScape. So I actually took a viewership hit because I was still streaming it, if that makes sense. And I think that happens.
Exactly the time period you're talking about. It was everybody took a hit.
Everybody.
There was a content drought, and like half my Discord stopped playing. Like I look on the side of my Discord, they're all playing different games. When at one point in time, it was all RuneScape.
And it was all RuneScape, yeah. And I think that's definitely a big thing with FSW, because like I mean, in the FSW days, I was pulling like 100 to 120 viewers. Everybody was because a lot of old school people came over. That was actually very unique. A lot of old school
players came in.
And you might actually like this Way. I actually experienced when I went to old school, people who were watching me play RS3 FSW were there for the old school streams because that's where they went back to. That's what they were enjoying. And so it's really it's so hard, right? Like we try to use like analytics, and we try to use our own experiences to shape the way that we're gonna go with our content, and it's just a battle of hit and miss, right? It's like playing Battleship. It's like, all right, this is a piece of content I think is gonna be really good. I'm gonna go hit it, and then like you go and it's like, oh fuck, that was actually a miss, but I could have sworn that was gonna be a hit. And I think what's really important for content creators is just to realize that you're gonna have a lot of misses. And every time you have a miss, there's going to be a hit around the corner, and you have to just keep plugging. You have to keep going. You have to keep trying. You have to keep changing. And I think a lot of people get complacent, and when they try something and it doesn't work out, they just fall back to where they felt safe, where they felt like everything was going to be okay. And so instead of trying something new again, they just go back to what was safe, and they stay that way. And so pin this. Let's not forget this, because I think this is going to be a really, really good conversation for a lot of people who could be aspiring content creators in our chat right now. I do think this is something that is really good insight for them. And but we do have an ad coming in 50 seconds. I can't snooze it anymore. Twitch, give me more fucking snoozes, dude. I swear to God, bro. All right, but we have an ad break coming up in 40 seconds. Listen, we've gone there, all right?
It doesn't work,
we do have an ad break in 40 seconds. We're going to take an opportunity to read up on chat. We are back from the ad break. Welcome back to What in the Podcast. Those of you guys that are coming back from the ad break, for those of you guys that are new here, we appreciate your listen. We appreciate your watch. For those of you that are chilling, this is a podcast with your boy Jimmy, and myself, CrossFireX.
Hello.
Special guest, two-time Golden Gnome nominee. No, I won't keep doing that to you. But every single time we come back from an ad break, I always like to introduce Waydot as two-time Golden Gnome nominee, two-time Golden Gnome winner, Waydot himself. And we were just having a conversation about how breaking out of your norm or breaking out of your niche can be something that is really hard to do. Just a quick question. What's up, Mika? Welcome in. Just a quick question. What's the X stand for? Is it Crossfire 10 or is it CrossFireX? It's CrossFireX. It doesn't stand for anything. I couldn't really give you a solid answer on that. I'll tell you this. My name used to look like this. And now it looks like this. No, there's no real purpose to it. It just
that's gotta be from the Xbox.
So like the inspiration for the name came from the Call of Duty 4 map Crossfire, but I needed something after it. I needed it to be different. So I was like, yeah, fuck it, fucking X, dude. And yeah, it's just where we went with it. It's just where we went. You know, it paid off in the long run. Actually, we'll have some fun conversation. We can probably talk a little bit about brands and stuff. We can go into that. But yeah, welcome back to the podcast, guys. We appreciate you listening. Thank you guys so much for all the follows, all the subs. You guys have been absolutely incredible. I really do appreciate your support. Eventually in the future, for those of you that are newer to our podcast, we do this podcast live on Twitch every single Sunday right here in this channel. It won't always be in this channel. Eventually, we're going to move it to its own separate Twitch channel, just like we're doing right now with the YouTube. But little bit by little bit, got to make those movements at specific times throughout the growth of the podcast. This is something, like I said, we do every Sunday, and it's not always about content creation. We talk about anything and everything. Last week we talked about Apple versus Android, and I gave some very heated hot takes on what that actually looks like. I did not yell at him.
He yelled at me.
I did not yell.
I cried. The only way to find out is if you watch the VOD.
Well, if you weren't a bitch, you weren't. No, I'm kidding. No, I would never. But yeah, so we were talking about branching out of regular content, so like being a RuneScape content creator, trying to move into something that's not RuneScape related, and then maybe it doesn't work out the way that you expect it to, and so naturally you revert back to the safe spot of RuneScape content creation, and then because it didn't work out the way you wanted to, you don't really want to try and break out anymore. And I think it is extremely important, especially from like an experience standpoint. It is the most important that you don't stop trying, right? If that's something you genuinely want to do, the best way that you can do it is to keep trying, right? And so there's going to be, I thought I came up with a banging idea for Diablo 4 release, and I was like, this is going to be so good, and it didn't work out the way I wanted it to. And that's okay. The difference is that I didn't let that stop me. And so maybe that's just because I come from as much experience as I do being a content creator and being a full-time streamer. And as long as I've been doing it, but something that new creators probably avoid a lot is they try something different. It doesn't work out the way they want to, and so they go back to their safe space. And so the best thing I can always give to other people and tell other people is that you shouldn't stop trying. Not everything's going to work out. You're going to miss a lot. And Wei, you've kind of dabbled a little bit. Maybe you can add a little insight on that.
Yeah, 100%. I think first of all, if you want to get better at anything, you have to put yourself outside of your comfort zone. And that's like, it's such a tough lesson to actually apply to real life or apply to real life scenarios, because putting yourself outside of your comfort zone sucks. But like, in order to get good at something, you have to kind of suck at something, and it just applies to everything. So I think what you're talking about is going to Kick recently. Obviously going to Kick, the RuneScape 3 category over there, it's dead. Except for the viewers that I bring over from my Twitch stream, there's only 2 other guys streaming, and usually there's not many other people shopping around, right? So it's tough because I go over there and you start with all your viewers, and then they kind of slowly over the course of the stream go because they're going to bed or they're going to eat or do whatever. And it slowly dies down. You have to put yourself out of your comfort zone to do that. I don't know if that's the best strategy with Kick. I think I might adopt something similar to what you're doing. But yeah, I think putting yourself out of your comfort zone, whether it's a new game, trying a new platform, whatever it is, it's super important.
Yeah. And Jimmy's had a little experience with it too. Jimmy, maybe you can give from like the newer streamer perspective on that, how you feel about it, how it's worked out for you, and maybe how that's shaping your future attempts.
trying out other games.
Yeah, like branching out or just trying content that
Branching
you
out.
wouldn't normally do.
Yeah, so like I said, my overall plan was to use the RuneScape category to build my niche, and then I started branching out. I actually did a Dead by Daylight stream, and then I did Phasmophobia for a while, and I didn't think people would watch me for that, but I actually had like a decent amount of viewership from that. So I was like, okay, maybe I could, stream this. And I think tried to stream a different. I can't remember what game it was, but then it fell off, right? Complete. Nobody watched it, and I was like, "Oh
Was
shit!
it
I need to go back."
Devour, right? You were trying Devour?
Yeah, I tried Devour. Nobody watched that stream, and I was like, "Oh fuck! I need to go back.
Damn.
I need my viewers. Like, I need to go back to the RuneScape category." And I stayed there for about like, I want to say like 4 more months when I had my whole Virago thingy. That's a whole other thing, and I got burnt out and everything. Um, but yeah, it's scary to leave,
Well,
the
'cause
comfort zone. It's like,
well, we talk about it a lot on the podcast. We
yeah.
always say that people are always going to revert to the path of least resistance because it's the easiest thing to do.
That's
People don't
true
really
with
like to
everything,
challenge
yeah.
themselves, and so in all walks of life, you're
surfing
always going to
Sundays.
take the
those.
path that isn't going to have as much friction, right? Like, why would you take a path that looks like this if you could take one that looks like this, and it's just slightly easier to navigate that path? And so,
Yeah.
it's being in your comfort zone and being afraid to step out of your comfort zone. Two, I think, is a lot of people look at failure in a very interesting perspective. So like, I think people are afraid of failure. And so what someone defines as failure is very interesting, because a lot of people in the streamer space, well, if you pull 50 viewers and you go and try something else and you pull 20 viewers, someone's going to look at that as failing.
Yeah.
I don't look at
did.
failure that well. Yeah, so right, like in your experience, you did. I don't look at failure like that at all. In fact, you don't fail until you give up. The minute you stop trying, the minute you say, "Hey, this isn't me. Hey, this isn't gonna work out. Hey, it's been X amount of time and it's just not happening." The minute you stop trying is when I think you failed. That's when you let failure take over. Because if you keep trying, if you keep learning, you keep experiencing, eventually everything's going to click. Things are going to make sense. You're going to start to mold things. Even more so, me as like a full-time live streamer, I always looked at YouTube as like, that's where I failed. And the reason why I say I failed on YouTube is because I would start, stop. I would start, I would stop. I would start, I would stop.
Yeah.
And the minute I gave up on YouTube was the minute I failed YouTube. That was when I was like, okay, I failed over there. I failed. Now, I don't know why.
Do that with TikTok.
Failure is always like this like negative like connotation. Like, you could look at failure as something that's like inherently bad. You could be like, failure is bad and you don't ever want to fail. Or you could change your perception on it and you could go, okay, I failed right now. That doesn't mean I can't go back to it and succeed later. It's just like streaming. It doesn't mean you can't go back to it. What's stopping you from going back to something that you didn't maybe do? Maybe now you have more experience. Maybe now you got a little bit more experience that's going to change the way that you do something, right? And so like, for a long time, I was afraid of what I perceived as failure. But if you keep going, if you keep grinding, if you keep trying, if you keep giving it your all, eventually I'm a firm believer that eventually things are going to work out, that things are going to go your way and you'll figure it out. But the minute you stop is when you fail. And that's kind of how I look at that.
I think it depends on how much you invest into it. So, like for me personally, I basically the very first day that I started making enough income to even kind of reasonably quit my job, my day job, I quit. And I did this intentionally because I figured if I just put everything out on the line and put a lot of risk into this situation,
You have no choice.
then I have no choice but to succeed. And it worked for me. I'm not saying that's a smart decision. I'm not saying everybody should do that, but people are going to have different levels of failure. Because for me, if I actually failed in that scenario, that would have been awful. That would have felt so bad. I would have been broke. I would have had a lot of things going on that would have been horribly bad. You know what I mean?
But you bet on yourself.
But I bet on myself and I made it
True,
work.
yeah.
But there's going to be some people, you know, failure to them is going to mean something different. So it might not be as bad for them. And so But yeah, redefining what failure is for yourself, I think, is super important, especially in the content creation world, because like we talked about, people are going to tell you what their definition of failure is. And if you meet that criteria, they're going to say you're failing, even if you don't think you are.
Yeah, it goes hand in hand with like what people think success looks like, and what success looks like for you and what success looks like for me are two different things. I will actually argue that while you said you don't recommend it, and I don't want to say something that could potentially be detrimental to somebody else, but I did the same thing that you did, Way. The minute I was comfortable in a position where I could do it full time and have enough money, I took the leap of faith like in Assassin's Creed. And I jumped. I quit my job. I stopped working, and I went full time into content creation. Now, fast forward to today, I tell people all the time, I say, I probably shouldn't have become a full time streamer when I did. But I wouldn't change any of it. I wouldn't regret any of that because it molded me into who I am today as a content creator. And so quite literally, just like you did, Way, I bet on myself. I bet on the fact that I wasn't going to let myself fail. And by doing that, I had no choice but to make it work. And so what that meant was, in order to make it work, it meant I had to fucking deal with my own bullshit. And so by dealing with my own bullshit, that meant sitting there after every stream, watching my own content for hours, sitting there going, is this funny? Am I laughing at it? Oh, I'm not laughing at it. That's a problem. If I'm not laughing at it, how is anybody else going to laugh at it? So we got to change that. Is the audio good? Does the audio sound okay? Is it balanced? Is the music too loud? Is the music too low? Is the music balanced? And I went through, and it was one thing after the other. And even to this day, 9 years later, I still go back into my VODs and I still critique my own VODs and I still make adjustments because it's never going to be perfect. At least for me, it'll never be at a spot where I'm like, okay, I don't need to do this anymore. I'm always going to be constantly trying to adjust and adapt to better my own content. And as long as I'm doing that, as long as I'm giving it my all and I'm constantly trying to do that, nothing else matters because I believe that everything else will fall into place. And it did. Slowly but surely over time, things fell into place. Before you knew it, it was like, okay, here we are, Twitch partner. Okay, we hit X amount of subs. My subs dropped. Okay, now all of a sudden my subs dropped. All of a sudden I'm now at my new highest sub record. And then what you think is your highest sub record, you think you're never going to achieve past that. Then you hit a new record and you're like, fuck, how did that even happen? And so not allowing yourself to fail, part of like me and Way, like just jumping into the deep end, we couldn't fail because we had things that relied on us having it work. And so we only had one direction, and that direction was forward. And so if you frame it that way, and I'm not saying that everybody should just go and quit their jobs and just become streamers. I'm not saying that at all. But when you look at it subjectively and you look at like what you really need, right? Like for a while, I had money to pay my bills and eat. I didn't have money to like go do fun shit. I put like my first TwitchCon, I put on a fucking credit card. Funniest fact about that is I just paid that credit card off a year ago. This was TwitchCon I went to in 2016, 2017. I paid off future TwitchCons before I paid off my first TwitchCon. Because I didn't have the money to go, but I needed to go and I wanted to go, so I put it on a credit card. And then I was stuck paying that credit card. And so it was like I cut out what I didn't need. I focused on absolutely what I needed, and then I made everything else work from there. And so I think if a lot of people are able to look at their own situation subjectively, there's a lot of shit that people think they need, but they don't. And until you like look at it and like sit down and like realize it, you're always gonna think you need it, and then you realize you don't. When you actually look at, like, for instance, I would spend, when I was younger, I had a job and I didn't have any bills, and I would spend like $1,000 buying CSGO keys, and it was fun. And I thought I needed to do that because I thought that was like, we lost Way's back.
Yeah. I'm in the Discord chat, but I think
No, you're good. Your cam's back. Yeah, your cam's back.
We lost him.
We're good.
Yeah, it blipped for a minute, but you're good. Yeah, but so like I would think that something. That's not the CS:GO thing is not a really good example.
You can use mine. Food. I order food a lot. I don't need to order food.
Yeah,
that's an expense.
Actually, that's a really good way to look at it. Right?
Like I said on the last podcast, if I didn't waste my money on the food, I could have bought a new chair already.
Alone. Yeah, on all the delivery costs alone, if you didn't spend so much money ordering food, That's money that could have been spent on a new chair, which is something you actually need, right? Because your chair is bad. You're sitting in an uncomfortable chair. If you're sitting in an uncomfortable chair, how are you going to create content?
Is that like a wooden kitchen chair?
Dude, this is a wooden kitchen ash chair. Don't worry, I'm getting a chair like either tomorrow or the next day.
I can't judge. I just have like a super generic office chair. But
it's so bad,
it's better
bro.
than that.
Well, and so actually that's another good way to put it. So like you have a lot of streamers and newer streamers especially, they fall into like the quality trap where they think they got to have the best camera. They think they got to have the best best headset. They think they need to have the coolest chairs. These chairs are listen, I'm sitting in one.
Yeah.
I will tell you right now, you don't need this chair. You don't need a DX Racer. You don't need a Secret Lab. You don't need an AK Racing. You don't need any of these cool looking gamer racing chairs. They're honestly overpriced. You pay more money for them, and a lot of them are actually worse for your back. So there are a lot of people that think they need this chair, and it's actually a waste of money. That's money that could be used elsewhere. And so, like, you don't need the best shit. Like, when I started streaming, and it's different now.
What was your setup like when you started streaming? Like how much? Because mine was about like $800.
When I started streaming, I used a 32-inch TV as a second monitor for my chat. I used a broken. I had a U.S. Army headset that had a broken mic that was duct taped together that was hanging there, and I had no overlays. I had a webcam. It was a Logitech. It wasn't the C920. It was a C720. It was like a 720p.
Bro, wait, hold up. No wonder the negative chatters got you. You had them on a 32-inch TV.
Yeah, they were blown up. But I didn't have an extra monitor. I didn't have an extra. Bro, here's the best part. I streamed at 550 bitrate.
Damn.
Like pixels.
Yeah.
Pixels. I would argue you can't do that today. Like 550 bitrate is rough. No one's watching that today. I
think there's a base level of quality, right?
There's definitely a base level of quality.
Like you don't need all the bells and whistles, but it's just like nice to have. Like there's some people with like terrible ass mics, right? But people still watch them.
Yeah, I agree. Yep. I mean, Stable Ronaldo, his mic is fucking ass. I just say that mic is cheeks. It peaks. It peaks 24/7. You know what I mean?
It's weird because Ronaldo yells so much too. So.
Yeah, I mean Tyler won.
Tyler won.
Like,
he has the same headset since he's like been streaming.
I'll give you another example.
It's like his
Summit 1G didn't get a condenser microphone until like maybe within the last 5 years. He used the headset the entire time with a headset mic for years. Then, only then did he eventually, and I mean, at this point, he already had millions and he was still using the same headset. Then he got an Audio-Technica 2035. And then he upgraded some of that gear. He did that for years, like years. And so a lot of people think you need all the bells and whistles and all that flashy shit, and all you really need to do is just create content and post it and stop being like, people are afraid to post some content. I mean, even
because they don't have all that, and they'd be like, well, why am I going to start with subpar gear in their eyes? You know, so they never even start.
Yeah, and I think the biggest
thing, you could start right now.
Is like,
it doesn't take much.
There was this guy, he went on, because you know Mizkiff?
Yeah.
He was reviewing like his viewers like setups or whatever, and there was this guy, he's like, yeah, I'm just about to start streaming. The dude had like a 6 PC setup with like 15 different cameras. He had this insane room. He spent like 25 grand just on the room alone and like decorations. Guy never even got like close to the partner requirements. Like, it just didn't work out.
Yeah, it's like, and so there's always this perceived look of like success, right? There's always that perceived look, and I think that's where people end up kind of catching themselves off guard, and I think a lot of people need to try it, see if it's something they genuinely like, because a lot of people will start streaming on Twitch and they get up there and they realize they don't like that. They don't like talking to people the whole time they're playing games. They'd rather just play games with a couple of friends in a Discord or, you know what I mean? A lot of people
would rather be the viewer than the streamer.
Yeah, there's a lot of misconceptions around streaming. It's just like people think that like when you hit go live, it's just you hit go live and that's it, and it's as simple as that, and you're gonna be successful just by sitting there in the chair. There's a lot of that goes around. We have an ad break coming up in 5 minutes. I'm sick of these ads, dude. Sorry guys, we have to run them. It's just how it goes. Mika, we see your questions. I really like your questions. I think we can give a lot of insight on that, and we will steer the conversation that way for sure. I agree with you on that. We've conversation has shifted a lot because there's so many different things that you can talk about around content creation, and that's why I think it's really nice to be able to give you guys the perspective of like Waydot, who is successful on YouTube, and obviously a Twitch partner. I'm not saying you're not successful on Twitch. Somebody will fucking take that and be like, he said Waydot's only successful on YouTube.
Flip it, ship it, boys.
Yeah. And so Waydot, who has a lot of success on YouTube, me, who has a lot of success right here on Twitch. My headset is unplugged. And then Jimmy, who is a new and who's had success here on Twitch so far, but is a newer content creator.
Hey, Cross. I got about 1 hour left, by the way.
Yeah. We're actually, no, I hear you. That's why I was talking with Mika too on his questions. I think this is a really great really great way to steer the conversation. I was actually going to ask you that too.
I would stay longer, but my kid's coming home and he's got an early bedtime tonight, and his room is right there.
You're good, no big deal. Okay. That's why I said in the very beginning too that we may have to do a part 2 with you on this and bring you back on for some more conversation.
It's been a really good time.
We do have an ad break coming up in 3 minutes 30 seconds, guys. So we'll start to kind of look at like questions and stuff again. And so Wiggle Goo, you said like, what is failure on Twitch? I think we kind of maybe touch base on that. You tell me if we kind of touched enough base there for you. You said, is it viewer base, money base, how many JMods in your DMs? Yeah, and so that's something that is subjective because that's always going to be something that is specific to the person, right? Like for me, and this kind of goes into what Mika was asking a little bit. I define myself as a successful content creator. I've done it long term, full time, and I've achieved the things in life that I've wanted to achieve. At a sense, like eventually, like at some point I was like, the biggest goals I had for myself in life were like, okay, I wanted to own my own house, right? So growing up, my mom had her house and it got foreclosed. And then from there on out, all the way through high school, I was constantly like living in different apartments. And so for me, because of that experience, I knew that I always wanted my own place. I wanted my own house, and I achieved that through content creation. And so we'll go deeper into it. After the ad break, we'll go deeper into the conversation, and we'll get everybody's opinions, Way's and Jimmy's, on how they look at those questions as well, for sure. And we'll touch on the Google question too, about the like what looks like failure, what is, how do you define success personally? So we are back from another ad break. We are back from another ad break. Those of you guys that are just now tuning in, welcome back to What in the Podcast with your boy Jimmy and myself, CrossFireX, as well as special guest Waydot. Don't worry, I won't do it for you this time, Way. Yeah, so we were kind of on a conversation about actually where exactly were we? Do we know?
You wanted to answer the question that
well, that's where we were headed, yeah. And I think that's a good way to steer things and wrap this bad boy up for the night. I hope, in general, that we've been able to provide insight, and maybe we didn't get all of our points across directly, and there's probably going to be a part 2. We like Waydots. We're going to bring him back on, and we're going to have some more conversation with you guys. And it may not even be about content creation. We may dive into other conversation, just to have general conversation. But yeah, so we actually got a lot of questions about like we talked a little bit about like what failure looks like and how failure is very subjective, just like success. And if Google asked if it was like viewer based, if it was money based, how many JMods are in your DMs. So he had a little bit of like criteria around that. As well as Mika. Mika asks, he said, "Hi guys, can I ask a serious question?" Of course you can, always. We're always open to it. What are your long-term goals? Like, what do you hope to achieve as a content creator? Is there a financial goal when you will when you feel like you will have made it? And so I guess we can, off the top, Jimmy, like, what about you, man? What are your long-term goals from content creation?
For me, I just want to like live comfortably, right? I just want to have my own place, my own family at one point, and then just like I don't want to like live like extravagantly, but just like good enough to where I don't really have to worry about money, like and also like with content creation, it is a job, but it's not like a traditional job. You know what I mean? You're not punching a clock per se. You
Well,
have a lot more flexibility, but it still is like, if anything, it's more. It's like more work, but different in a way. You know what I mean?
I agree with that.
Like I don't want to.
People
Yeah,
are gonna,
like
no,
I don't
no,
want to.
no, no, fuck that. Fuck that.
What?
All right.
Way more work.
It's way
Yeah,
more work.
it is.
It's,
It
I
is
don't
a
care
lot
what
of work,
anybody
but
fucking says. It's way more work.
Yeah.
But it's different than a traditional job. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
I agree with
me
that.
personally, I would rather put in more work as a content creator than punching a clock every day.
Well, especially because you're passionate about it, and so it's putting more.
Yeah,
hours
because
in
I
is
yeah,
easier
because
when
I
you're
actually
passionate.
enjoy it.
Yeah.
Like my last job, I didn't enjoy it at all. It paid well, but I wasn't happy. Like I hated going to that job. So I'd rather have the flexibility, live comfortably. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, I feel that. Yeah, 100%.
Like,
That's why I think like people are like, "Oh, you play video games. That's not a job." And it's like,
it's so hard
And
explaining
that's
it to
exactly
my,
what they sound like too.
it's so
Yeah.
hard explaining it to my family members that don't understand.
Oh,
They understand. They understand the podcast because that's something they can like. Oh, okay.
relate
you know,
with. But
podcast,
like when you
something
talk about playing video
what do you
games,
say, street? Yeah, dude. Like what? You play video games? Like
and they
people
pay
watch you?
Yeah,
they pay
I'll dive into that as we dive into this conversation a little
I'm
bit more. I'll tell
I'm
you some
kinda
of my
lucky with
experiences with that.
I'm kind of lucky with that. My dad used to make YouTube content for Call of Duty back in like 2012. I don't know if you've ever heard of like Minnesota Burns or there were
Yeah.
some of these Call
Yeah,
of Duty
yeah.
YouTubers. Yeah, my dad did a video with him like way back in the day.
Oh
My
wow.
dad was called the Blind Spot Gamer because he's legally blind, and so he'd be the blind guy playing Call of Duty. And that's what like got me into content creation was kind of seeing that and my dad do that. He ended up stopping because like real life obligations, his real job, he was putting way too much time into Call of Duty. So, but if he stuck with it, he'd probably would have had the chance to at least become a massive creator because that was
Yeah,
like
could
the
be a
OG
content
days of, like,
god.
YouTube. So,
True.
so
True.
with
That
him,
was
I
like the
kind of
exception.
have some leeway because he like understands, right? But everybody
Mhm.
else, like, oh, it's tough to.
It's a
explain.
hassle, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because like I said, everybody will say like, it's not a job. You're playing video games. You're sitting at your desk. You're in AC, and it's like, fuck you. I do 80 hours a fucking week, and like 50 of it is on stream content. Like you only see what I do on stream, and that's still 50 hours. People don't want to work 35 to 40 hours a week in whatever job they have to go into. I'm doing 50 to 55 hours a week live on Twitch, never mind the amount of hours I'm putting in on like planning like content for YouTube or like working on TikTok or even like trying to engage socially on TikTok or even networking. Like it is a massive part of being a content creator. It's still part of work. Like you even like forming genuine connections, forming genuine networking. That is still a part of work, and so those are
Yeah.
hours you're still putting in, and people
Technically, you're
don't see that.
always
You're
on.
always on. That's I said that
Yeah,
from the
you're
very beginning.
always
You're
on.
always on. You never take a day off, and you don't feel like you can have a day off because if you're not on, you're not like you're irrelevant. You're falling off. Like, and that's just how it goes. Woogle is just spamming these sound alerts, and I feel so bad. He's just getting scammed on his points right now because we don't have any of them. I don't have any of them on the podcast scenes. I just see him popping up.
Too bad.
But yeah, so wait, what about you? Like long-term goals, dude? Like content creation. Obviously, I don't know how long have you been doing this for, and then like, what does it look like long-term for you?
Yeah, so this answer might catch some heat, but I think it's truly the best way to look at it. I don't like to like kind of what's a good way to put this? I don't like to back down from it. I started content creation because I want to be my own boss. I want to make my own content, and I want to do this long term. So really, what I want to like, if I had a 5 or 10 year goal, yeah, I want to be a millionaire from it. Because I think if you set your goal at that, then every action you take is going to work towards that direction. So yeah, I want to make a ton of money. I want to make an absurd amount of money from doing content. And people always kind of give me flack when I say that, but
Why?
if you don't set your eyes towards that kind of end goal, or you don't look towards the stars, as they say,
Yeah.
what are you doing? What's the point, right?
Well, like, yeah, I would argue. I don't know why anybody would give you flack about.
I think it's kind of like what you said earlier, how it's like not relatable, you know?
Yeah, and so like
okay.
I get that because like there's an extent like for instance, a lot of people say that like Drake's new rap is trash, and I'm in the boat of like his rap is trash, but that's just because I don't like Drake. I'm biased. I'm not a fan of Drake. I said it. That's a hot take number 1 today. It's okay. That's not the point that I'm making. Drake raps about it, and the reason why you say that old Drake is better is because a lot of the shit he raps about now, it comes from a perspective of money. The things that he does today, because of having money, you cannot relate to because you don't have that level of money and you don't know what he's talking about. Some of his innuendos, you don't know what he's really talking about because you can't. It's not relatable because he is evolved to a different level, and so. His older shit made sense because it was on a relatable level because you knew what it meant. Like when people talk about like not having money or not being able to have all this extravagant stuff, to an extent, there's a point in which like you're going to outgrow that relatability. And that's where it's harder for some people to relate. And if they can't relate, they're just not going to like you as much. That's just what it is. And so that's why I was saying 100%. I don't think you're in the wrong for saying you want to make $1 million or more. Like why wouldn't
everybody wants to?
Well, like not even just that, but if you're in the mindset of I'm trying to make $1 million, you're going to take the steps and the measurements necessary to help you get to that goal. That's how any goal works. Mentally, you're going to start making adjustments. Like, okay, this isn't working out. We still want to make $1 million. We got to make an adjustment. And you're going to constantly chase that goal until you achieve that goal. And then you set a new goal. That's how they work. And so I don't think you're in the wrong for saying that you want to make $1 million through content creation. It was the same thing with me. Like when I said I wanted to buy a house through content creation, right? And then now for me, it's like, yeah, I want to make $1 million through content creation. Yeah, 100%. I agree with that take.
It goes beyond content creation. I think everybody in every job or every aspect of their life should be shooting towards being a millionaire. I think you're just cutting yourself short if you don't.
Yeah.
People are going to put you down if you say that out loud, or they're going to
they might laugh at you.
Say, oh, that's not possible. You're never going to do that. But if you don't set yourself up to a certain standard, like you're never going to be able to amount to what you actually probably could amount to.
Yeah, man, I'll keep it $150, and this is going to make it really unrelatable for a lot of people, and I'm sorry that I'm going to go here, and maybe this can hurt me in the long term. If I told people how much money I've made from content creation over my time, they wouldn't believe it, because the reason why I say this, the reason why I say this, no, but you have to understand the mindset behind it. The reason why I say this is, okay, I'm fucking having trouble like formulating the thought on it. It says say it. No, it's not about. Okay, so when you get your check stubs, if you work a 9-to-5 job, you get your pay stubs, and you look at that year-to-date number, and you go, where the fuck is all that money? And that happens. Almost everybody I know that looks at that year-to-date number on that pay stub, they go, I made how much money this year? You look at your bank account and you go, where the fuck is that? Like, I didn't have that amount. Nah, bruh. Taxes? They only took this much in taxes? Nah, something's not right. Where'd my money go? And then you realize you have a spending problem that you never realized you had because you had more money than you thought you even made. It's the same thing.
I don't know why you're attacking me like this.
Well, and that's just the reality of what it is. And so it's the same thing in content creation. It's the same exact, like if I told you how much money I made in content creation and then how much money I have now, I'm sitting here going, well, where the fuck did all that money go? But as bills and expenses and stuff drains your money, and by the time you get to the end of it, you don't even realize how much money you've actually made. And so when you say I want to make $1 million, you probably have already made a considerable amount towards that $1 million. You don't realize it though because of how much money you've also spent of that money that you made. So if you make $250,000 in the span of your time, your goal is to make $1 million. You made $250,000. You spent $228,000 of it, and so you're like, well, how am I going to make $1 million? And so I think it's really hard for people to look at it that way. And so $1 million isn't that crazy. Actually, don't quote me on this. I think the majority of people who work 9-to-5s eventually have $1 million at some point. Now, they don't have it all at once, but if you look at their year-to-dates and you look at all of their money they've made in their lifetime, they've made over $1 million. They just never fucking realized they made that much money.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure it depends on where you live, but like minimum wage
Yeah.
changes, right? But I'm pretty sure if you work full time minimum wage in most places, if you do that for like 40 years, you've probably made close to $1 million,
Yeah, I
right?
was just gonna say, if you did that for 40
Yeah.
years, you probably made close to $1 million, and you're just like, "Where's that money? I don't have that money." It's like you don't even realize how much money you made. Like, so when you think about $1 million, $1 million isn't hard to make. It's hard to keep. And that's really where the problem lies. And so, like, before we get off onto a tangent and like stretch this thing out longer, since we do have a time crunch here, I think people just kind of have to look at things a little differently to realize, like, no, I don't think your goal of wanting to make $1 million is crazy at all. I think that's normal. I don't even look at $1 million as anything that crazy, because it is crazy. Like $1 million in your savings account, that's fucking insane. Yeah, that's a lot of fucking money. But the reality is over the period of your lifetime, you probably have touched $1 million. You just didn't realize it. And you guys can ask, like, to answer the question, what are my long-term goals? Mine are similar to Way at this point. I've been doing this for 10 years. I've been a Twitch partner for 9 years. My long-term goal is to continue to live well off, continue to be able, my goal has always been to continue to do this full time. And if I can continue to do this full time, that's all I've ever really wanted. Like, if I can keep doing this full time, live comfortably, support my fiance, eat food, and like go and have a vacation and like go and enjoy myself, that's what I want to do. Obviously, you know, I'd like to have a level of money in my bank account that I can just dip into and help my friends and give it out and do whatever the fuck I want with that. That, like, 100%, that's what I would like to do long term. Yeah. Like, that's where I'm going with that. That's where I'm headed. I believe that's where I'm headed as a content creator. Now, some of you guys might say that's big headed to look at it, but like, you have to believe in yourself as a content creator to make it in this fucking industry. And if you don't, it's going to be really, really hard.
100%.
The other question was like, what do you hope to achieve as a content creator? And so this kind of ties in hand with like long-term goals, but like, let's think more of like content creation aspect. Like, what would you want to achieve? And Waydot, you can start us out with this one.
Yeah, sure. I think when you think of that, you don't always know what the answer is going to be, because like, are you going to achieve this crazy event where you have like thousands of people watching you? You can't really know the specifics, but I think it'd be disingenuous to not say that what you want to achieve is some level of influence or popularity. I think just being a Twitch streamer or being a content creator, that's a bit that plays into it, right? You want to be able to have your voice heard, to kind of make a lasting impact with your content, to potentially reach thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people with your content. So that would be something I would like to achieve, is just reach as many ears or as many people as possible.
Yeah, I hear that 100%.
Okay. For me, honestly, I just want to like build a community and have like a good time. Like, I've always been that person to just like I go with the flow. I'm the person at the party who just wants to have fun. Like, I don't bother myself with a bunch of like drama and shit. But like, in terms of like creating stuff, probably like what the organizations are doing, I'm very like loyal in a sense to like build like a community and take them up. I don't know how to describe it. I just want to have fun. That's at the core of it. I genuinely just want to have fun with the boys, with friends, family, and just like build into something crazy.
Dude, nothing wrong with that. I
Yeah,
think
like
that's great.
100%.
I don't know how to like say it properly.
I think I think you kind of like have the same view that I have, in that sense of like, for me, I've always, as a person who loyalty is like really, really big, I've always vowed to myself that like, if I ever make it to a certain level, my boys are coming with me. Like, it doesn't, like, the boys who've stuck around with me, they're coming with me. I'm going to elevate them. I'm the type of person that I'm going to elevate the people who have been around me. I'm not the type of person that's going to get a new group of people. I'm going to elevate the people that are around me so they can live well off too. And that's always been that goal. So like down the line, I want to pay my mods. I want my mods to be able to come here, actually sit down, moderate my chat, and be able to make money doing that and be able to live comfortably doing that, just like other content creators have done in the future. That's something I've always looked at from the very beginning of content creation. That's always been a plan of mine. And now you're gonna have people that are like, yo, mod me, bro, mod me, I'll be a mod forever. And it's like, well, again, loyalty is everything. And so the guys who have you guys know, I have people who've been subbed to me for 90 plus months, 100 plus months. I have mods that have been modding for me for 6, 7, 8 years. Those are guys that are going to be elevated with me because they have stuck with me through all of it. And that loyalty matters to me. It means a fucking lot. And I might not always see eye to eye with those guys. I banned my mods. Tra, I banned that motherfucker a few times. Tyler, I banned that motherfucker a few times. I've banned my mods plenty of times because, like, this is how any relationship goes. You're gonna get into arguments. You're gonna have disagreements. I've been able to understand and see that those arguments and those disagreements don't mean we can't be friends. Don't mean that we can't continue to coexist. Like, that's not what that means at all. We just don't agree on that, and that's okay. We're not always gonna agree.
There's probably a conversation to be had too about having mods that do disagree with you, so you don't kind of get into that echo chamber of like yes men surrounding you, right?
Which is why
my mods and me don't get along. A lot of times.
And well, it's the same reason why I follow people on Twitter. Like, everybody thinks that a Twitter follow is an endorsement, and it's fucking not. I follow people on Twitter that I don't fucking like. Like, I literally follow people that have points of views that I don't have because it allows me to not be in an echo chamber. I don't see all the shit that I want to see. I
follow Google.
Yeah, I didn't unfollow Google. I'll tell you that.
I'm kidding.
That's funny.
Yeah, but no, yeah, very much so. And so for me, you know, what do I hope to achieve as a content creator? I've achieved a lot of what I've wanted to achieve. That doesn't mean I don't have other achievements, right? Like, I almost have all the Twitch achievements done. And so the only Twitch achievements that are left, are hours watched achievements. And so I would love to get those. I'm close to the 500,000 hours watched one. So I think that's really, is it minutes watched or hours watched? I'd have to double check on it. I think the achievement is hours watched. And so I'm excited about like stuff like that, stuff that doesn't really matter. Achievement wise, like, yeah, just, you know, being able to pay my mods is like the next big goal for me. And obviously my boy Toby, he's killing it with the editing, and I want him to be able to take over a number of things. I've actually talked to Tabby, like, I have a vision for Toby that he doesn't know I have for him, and part of his vision is like I want him to be able to come on every vacation with me so he could be like my personal photographer too, and like actually be able to put content out on all of my socials, and like Toby can be there along with that. And so I have a separate vision for Toby, and that's, you know, that's just like part of working with my team and like people that are my team. Like, that's what I want to do, and I want to continue to like develop that and like get to a point where I can, you know, put these guys under the actual business name and give them an actual salary. That's my goal. 100%. And then to kind of wrap things up here, we have one last like really important one, and we may have to come back for part 2 on another day for some more awesome conversation. But the last one is there a financial goal when you will feel like you've made it? And so either of you boys, if you want to start that one off.
Yeah, that's on you, Jimmy.
Okay. To make it, for me, thinking about it more, when I think like my financial thing to say I made it is when I help the majority of my family get up out of their debt. So like not only just me, but like even my cousins and stuff. Like I would want to help everybody essentially rise up to the next tax bracket, if you get that, because like we didn't grow up with much. So if I can like take myself and my family to the next level, I would feel like I've made it, and I've made a difference for my entire family, and then I would feel like I would leave a good legacy behind. And yeah, that's what I feel like I would make it financially, not even just for myself, for other people.
Yeah, I feel that 100%.
It's a lot of people too. That's a lot of people. That's like easily like 75 people. That's a lot. That's a lot of money.
Oh yeah, I
But
think
yeah.
I think a lot of people kind of share that. Like everybody always wants to put their like. So for me, I come from a family of 5. I'm the youngest of 5 kids, I should say. I'm 26, so my mom is, she's older, I should say, than what a lot of people my age have for parents. And so I always had that mentality of like, I want to make it and like make so much money that I can, just like whatever my mom needs, she's got it. And
Yeah,
I've always
so they don't have
like
to worry.
exactly always same thing with family, like whatever they need, they've got it. I got them covered. Like it doesn't matter, like it doesn't matter, I've got it, I'll work for it, they'll get it. Yeah, I've always had that that viewpoint. I guess what I would consider to be making it is different for me because, and maybe this is, you guys can, if you want to call this out and say it's an ego thing, I feel like I have made it, because my biggest goals were to do it full time, live comfortably doing it full time, and to buy a house. And I bought a house 3 years ago. And so I feel like there's always more work to do, but I view it as I have made it. Like I am successful. Like that's how I kind of look at that. And so I don't really feel like I'm chasing something that I haven't achieved or like that I haven't made it. Now maybe I like in terms of making it, like would I like to have 1,000 viewers? Yeah, I think that'd be fucking sick, right? Like I think that would be really, really cool. And then at that point, other people would be like, yeah, that guy made it, right? And so I guess for me, the term making it would just be more so for other people to view me as that way, because, and at the end of the day, I don't really care what other people think about me, but
Yeah.
I don't, like, at the end of the day, I don't really care what other people think about me, and I feel that I'm very successful and I feel that I've made it. And because of that, the only other thing that could possibly change is other people to look at me and go, that guy's successful, that guy's made it. As weird as that sounds, right? Like I said, I don't really care about what people think, but like that would be the next step, right? Is like other people just looking at me and actually giving me the credit I feel I deserve, or like the respect I feel I deserve in that sense. Because like I said, like you're always subjected by your numbers. And so people come into the stream, they see X amount of numbers and they're like, well, he's whatever. He's not a good content creator. He doesn't have X amount of viewers, or he hasn't made it, or he's not successful. And so I guess like mine is kind of like a weird form of make it, because I view myself as making it or as having made it.
Yeah, I basically agree with that. I think the original question was, when have you made it financially? And if you asked me a year ago, I would have said, well, when I could do this full time. But like everything, anytime you get more money, what ends up happening is that you end up wanting more money. And I'm not at the point where I have like an excess of money and I'm loaded and I can do all this.
That's how it goes.
But I think they say like there's a median range of money that you can make per year. It's somewhere between like $70,000 to $120,000, where essentially you don't have to stress about bills or about food or any of the just general stresses that you'll have in life. So I think that would probably be my next goal, is just getting more financial security, maybe being able to pay for my son's college, things like that. But just a general overall security would be when I think I've made it next. Now, ask me the same question in 3 years, maybe I've already reached that goal.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, when I'm standing on a yacht.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, it'll probably change,
is there
right?
Is
it's always
there ever
it's always
end
going to be a
goal?
moving
It's tough to say.
goalpost. No, I agree with you. Like in that sense, it's always going to be a like a moving goalpost for sure. I think that's kind of like a normal thing. Like you're gonna reach one and then you're gonna create a new one, and then it's gonna keep moving for sure. No, I agree with you very much in that sense, though. Like just living comfortably, right? I think that's what everybody wants, right? Everybody just wants to live comfortably. I think everybody deserves to be able to live comfortably, 100%. So, yeah, man, I think we had an awesome podcast today. 3 hours total. I don't think the full podcast is 3, but it's about 2.5. So it's about our usual length of podcasting. So absolutely appreciate everybody. This was an awesome thing. We're going to have you back on again in the near future.